I was supposed to say that you are the perfect combination of sexy and cute. Crazy Stupid Love is next. And I don't have the media stuff, and this is the difficulties of going live. All right, there we go. Welcome to the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, the show that uses a unique rating style to redefine what the greatest movies are. I'm Tom Duncan.
And I'm Dana Duncan.
And in this special live episode, we discuss Crazy Stupid Love from 2011, celebrating its 15th anniversary a few days ago. Directed by Glenn Ficarra and John Recca. I hope I got those pronunciations correctly. Written by Dan Fogelman, music by Christoph Beck and Nick Urata, edited by Lee Haxall, starring Steve Carell as Cal Weaver, Ryan Gosling as Jacob Palmer, Julianne Moore as Emily Weaver, Emma Stone as Hannah Weaver, Marissa Tomei as Kate Tafferty, Kevin Bacon as David Lind. Is it Hagen or Hagen? It's Hagen.
Lindhagen.
Jonah Bobo as Robbie Weaver, John Carroll Lynch as Bernie Riley, Leo Tipton as Jessica Riley, Josh Groban as Richard, Carolina Wydra as Jordan, Liza Lapira as Liz, Joey King as Molly Weaver, Beth Littleford as Claire Riley, Juliana Gill as Madison, Crystal Reed as Amy Johnson, and Dan Butler as Cal's boss. Quick background for the movie: Crazy Stupid Love was released on July 29th, 2011, making this the 15th anniversary. On a budget of $50 million, the film would go on to gross roughly $145 million to finish number 58 at the worldwide box office for 2011. Reviews at the time were mixed, but mostly positive, with some critics even including it among their best films of that year. In 2025, it was one of the films voted for the Reader's Choice edition of the New York Times' list of the 100 best movies of the 21st century, finishing at number 288. It currently holds a 79% among critics on Rotten Tomatoes, a 68 score on Metacritic, and a 3.7 out of 5 on Letterboxd. But of course, we can't do this by ourselves, so we bring in our newest celebrity guest, the writer, director, and star of Do Us Part, which will be coming to theaters in New York and Los Angeles this coming week, and then on streaming August 14th. Please welcome in Reed Arnold.
A round of applause. Thank you all. I'm really excited to be here.
So, let's just kind of discuss how this all came about and what we're here to discuss today. So, first up, we all met each other kind of at, ironically, Dana's wearing his Beloit College alumni hat, the Beloit
Nice.
Film Festival back in April. And we saw your film Do Us Part. We really wanted to help you promote it. It's now coming on streaming, so we're here to discuss all things related to that. But also, I think my question was, you had some inspirations or things you were thinking about in regards to Do Us Part when you were writing it, and this film was one of them. Is that my correct understanding?
Yeah, I think there's some. This film is underrated in the best plot twists of all time discussion, I think, and there's just some great surprise twists and smackdown dialogue, and just quippy chemistry between all sorts of people that I wanted to really try to capture and Do Us Part. And actually on when we were shooting, we were going through the best rom-coms of all time, and my director of photography, Nick Venata, he's the one who really stanned Crazy Stupid Love. He wanted to make sure that it was included in at least the top 5, and I think I agree with him. Perhaps, I don't know. We'll get into that, but yeah, it's just, I think it's a really fun, really funny, weird, as I'm sure we'll also talk about, movie.
So I know we're going to discuss at length here Crazy Stupid Love. That is what we're here specifically to discuss for the purposes of our show. But just quickly, can you give a quick pitch for your movie before we kind of get rolling?
Sure. Honored for the chance to do so. Yeah, so Do Us Part is a romantic comedy or dramedy. It's about 3 friends who met in college, Ryan, Mark, and Rose. And Ryan and Rose always kind of danced around dating, but never quite did for a variety of reasons. And Ryan's kind of the nice, sensitive guy, and then Mark is his best friend, who's kind of a Lothario type. And then, so we see a little bit of their story in college, is in flashback, but then most of the movie takes place at a wedding years later, Ryan's wedding, where Rose has come to rectify the mistake of never being with Ryan and to see if, if he would make that choice today. And the best man, Mark, tries to keep that from happening for a variety of his own reasons and selfless reasons and selfish reasons. And so that, yeah, it sounds like a fairly simple premise, but I think there's some plot twists and some surprises that I found audiences get a little delighted by. So that's a very bad wordy pitch off the cuff, but hopefully it sparked your interest.
So Dana and I would both recommend the movie, of course,
Yes.
and you can read our reviews already on Letterboxd if you want to go over there. But certainly, when it comes out on streaming in a couple of weeks, go catch it on. I'm assuming Amazon is going to be one of them. YouTube.
So yeah, I know for sure it'll be on Apple TV, which is where you can pre-order today. Amazon
Okay.
doesn't do pre-orders, but it'll be available August 14th. Fandango, I know it'll be on,
Mm.
and I'm sure it'll be on others. This is all up to my distributor, I guess. But yeah, look for it on all the on-demand streamers. That's where it'll live, I think, for a while anyway.
And we're going to have a much more thorough chat on Do Us Part here in our second segment. But before we get to that, we'll discuss kind of crazy, stupid love. So a good place to start for today is just kind of getting a basic plot summary overview. And normally I have Dad do these, but because this is a special episode, I decided to bring out my best Ben Mankiewicz from TCM with this plot summary. Up next is a film from 2011 that takes the age-old Hollywood trope of the cinematic makeover and turns it completely on its ear. It's Crazy Stupid Love. Now, when we meet Cal Weaver, played with a wonderful understated desperation by Steve Carell, he is a man whose comfortable suburban life has just evaporated over dessert. His high school sweetheart and wife of 25 years, played by the luminous Julianne Moore, announces she wants a divorce. Suddenly, Cal finds himself cast adrift in the unfamiliar and deeply hostile waters of the modern dating scene. Enter Jacob Palmer, a suave, cynical, and impossibly sharp-dressed bachelor who treats the local lounge like his own personal kingdom. He's played by Ryan Gosling, channeling the kind of effortless, magnetic charisma that would make Cary Grant proud. Jacob takes pity on our broken-hearted protagonist, deciding to mentor Cal in the fine arts of tailored suits, confident posture, and the precise chemistry of the pickup line. But what makes Dan Fogelman's screenplay so compelling isn't just the transformation of Cal, it is how the film expertly weaves multiple generations of romance into a single chaotic tapestry. We see Cal's teenage son harboring a fierce, agonizing crush on his older babysitter, who in turn harbors her own secret affection. Meanwhile, Jacob, the ultimate uncatchable playboy, finds his own defenses completely dismantled by a sharp-witted law student, played with incredible comic timing by Emma Stone. It's a film that balances the slick, sophisticated banter of classic 1930s screwball comedies with a raw, very contemporary vulnerability. It reminds us that no matter our age, experience, or wardrobe, love has a way of making fools out of all of us. Now, with that, what is everyone's relationship with the film? Let's start with our guest.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember the first time I actually saw this film. I can't quite recall, but I do remember the sensation of watching it and enjoying it. And then to again jump right into the thing, like the true like I don't remember the last time a plot twist delighted me as much as this film's plot twist did. It really knocked my socks off and really made me. I love Dan Fogelman. I didn't even know at the time that I loved him, but I've since realized that he wrote this and Tangled, which is a movie I actually have a lot of love for, and I know he wrote This Is Us, which I've not watched all the way through, but I've seen some episodes and I know it's great and beloved, and I think he's a great writer. And yeah, I think just the characters and the chemistry and the unusual structure of the dang thing is so weird. And then when it just all collides in that cataclysmic scene, I mean, my jaw hung open, and it always stuck with me. And I watch that scene, once every 3 months just to see it again, just because it's fun. And so it's just always stuck with me just because of that brilliant writing decision on his part. And I have questions about how he came up with it and whether that was always the plan, I'd really like to talk to him about that at some point if I ever get to meet him. But it's a really fascinating piece of writing, in my opinion.
It certainly is. I think the way that modern romantic comedies are, and the fact that we have such or so very few in my opinion at this point that are like widely shared or cherished, this is still coming at the tail end of what I would say is kind of this romantic comedy boom from about 89 with When Harry Met Sally up through maybe about this period. And then we just have this kind of drop off. And it's not just romantic comedies, it's comedies in general, kind of finished up about this point in time. And we just haven't really had much since. And I think to a degree, I'll credit Matt Damon on this. The economics of the situation right now just seem to be against this particular genre, where horror has kind of come to the forefront because the economics really support that. You don't need a huge script. You don't need much more than a premise, and you certainly don't need to pay a huge cast because that's not why people go to see those movies. That's not the point.
Yeah, right.
Whereas comedies, it's very much about the casting and who's in the movie, that you have to kind of develop these relationships with the characters individually.
Yeah.
But there are romantic comedies being done, but they're done very packaged. It's on the Hallmark Channel.
I suppose.
I mean, people that love them go to the Hallmark Channel anymore. And they're very formulaic. You could put the character and the plot and the location and put them on index cards and randomly draw them and just mix them up, and there's your movie.
Yeah.
You don't need plot much. You don't need dialogue much.
So I guess I'll appreciate the ones that actually take their time and seem to have a certain level of sophistication and depth then, like this does. And while it does certainly have its age spots, which I'm sure we're going to get to as we kind of continue this conversation.
I hope so.
It's still a film that when I saw it a couple of years ago for the first time, I was very surprised by, but also very enchanted by. And so it is something that when you suggested this as our movie du jour, I was more than happy to agree to. This is a genre I personally love and would love to see it kind of come back in vogue again. So anything I can do to try and promote this more readily, I will obviously take that opportunity. But my specific relationship with the movie has to do with our good friend from the podcasting space, Andrew Corns, who is a devout Ryan Gosling stan and loves to promote any movie that he's pretty much ever been in. So when I told him, I think 3 or 4 years ago, that I had not seen this movie, and I still haven't seen The Nice Guys, which he gives me crap for regularly. I know.
We should have done that. Bring me on again.
When I told him that I hadn't seen this, he's like, you got to fix that pretty much immediately. Yeah. So I do remember watching this with my dad, with my mother, with my grandmother about 2 years ago, I think, on just a random Friday or Saturday evening where we'll put something on and I'm like, my friend has been trying to get me to watch this. I know that you guys aren't going to really object. Instead of spending 20 minutes trying to discuss, or maybe even 40 minutes, trying to discuss what we're going to watch, let me just put something on and then we'll just go. And I think everybody really enjoyed it. I will say, the twist, I was not expecting that at all. It was very much out of left field.
Exactly. Yeah. Really surprising.
But Dad, do you remember watching this with us at that time?
Yes, I do.
And
I do very much. It was
have you come back to it at all?
Huh?
Have you come back to it at all before today?
No, I haven't had a chance to, but no. But it is, no, I remembered almost the entire film. So.
I think it is somewhat memorable because while I do have some quips with maybe a little bit of the editing, I think it could have been cleaned up in some spots here and there. I do think for the most part, it relies on some fairly big sequences or set pieces that kind of ground us. And so as long as we're in one of those phases of the movie, it's still going to be enjoyable. And unfortunately, this came out right about the time where cable started really declining, because otherwise this to me could have been one of those TNT classics.
TNT, yeah, right.
Yep. So it's if it were in better circulation through something like that, I think this would be much more popular or much more seen because, unfortunately, other than the fact that the title just does not serve it well, and I'll agree with Steve Carell there. The thing is since I've been thinking about it for about 3 days, I still can't come up with a better one, to be honest.
Right. I haven't thought about that, but yeah, it is. It's not the most engaging title or grabbing title.
Here's another one that we often ask on this show, and I've been trying to really grapple with for a few days. Mm-hmm. What is it actually about? I think it's about a lot of things, but I don't know if I could come up with a central thing that I think the movie's really trying to say.
I personally... go ahead.
A central thing is hard. I can find some disparate things. I think you actually said it in your introduction. I thought was rather, I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, but just the, how love makes you kind of crazy and stupid, which is why the title does have its merits. And that comes with, ups and downs, but ultimately I think the film falls on the side of, be crazy and stupid in love. But it's hard to say that that's the only thing that ties everything together, but I think that's a big point. I think it does say a lot about, I'm sure we'll get into like the Jacob and the Cal and the masculinity of it all. I think there's a needle being thread about masculinity there. That's a big through line in the movie. That is on a knife's edge, and depending on which part you're on, it'll, fall on one side or the other. I would say those are the two things that I think jump out the most to me as like themes, is like why this movie has a point of view other than just being entertaining, which I'm all for being entertained, but I do think it has a few deeper waters running.
I think, and you mentioned Dan Fogelman earlier, and I was an avid watcher of This Is Us. I had people in my office who, that was like a discussion point, was, did you watch this week's episode yet? Kind of thing. And one of the things, that's not a comedic show per se in the same way that this is obviously a very comedic movie, but he has a lot of romantic heart to it, that there are genuine pieces of affection between the characters. There doesn't seem to be a ton of animosity, and despite the fact that this movie starts on such a weird note with that breakup.
Yeah.
They never seem to actually like have that kind of, when you're going through a divorce, there's so much anger and animosity and heartbreak as part of it. Like, I think he's genuinely depressed, but he never really takes it out on her in the same way that we see often depicted in film.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't either jumps over it, or it's implied that that's just not the approach that these two characters took unusually, right? To not let that anger take over. But it is an unusual distinction or decision that he made as a writer.
I think the underlying theme is simple, which is that love is not an emotion, and there's nothing intellectual about it. That even somebody can betray you and you're still in love with them. You can have somebody who is older than you and tells you no and no and no, and you still chase after them. You can have somebody that's got the world by the short hairs and can do whatever he wants whenever he wants, and yet he meets one person and gives it all up for her.
That's lovely. I got goosebumps there. That was great.
I think the movie very much tries to lean into the philosophical, and particularly through the eyes of a Robbie, who's that young, naive kind of seeming character, but seems to appeal to all of the older characters who feel like they've grown cynical and don't think of love or relationships in the same way you do when you're younger, and thus why some of their relationships are breaking apart or growing separately. Except that the one challenge I would have against what seemingly is the message of the film, don't give up on your soulmate, is that the other person has a decision in this too. And I think it's presented, but never quite comes to the fore, where Steve Carell in his final speech in the graduation scene says, I'm going to keep trying, and it may not work out. And that's about the closest we get to that balance of the hopeless romantic that you are when you're younger versus when I'm older, I may still be in love with my soon-to-be ex-wife, but she may not love me that way.
Yeah. I think that's one of the perhaps dated, and certainly it's one of the this film walks on a lot of tightropes, and the constantly pursue the person of your affection. That sort of guidance and through line is certainly not always advisable, for sure.
Yeah.
But this film definitely romanticizes it in a, it paints that as a somewhat desirable trait in someone who loves.
Yeah.
Let's just point it out, Tom. How many times have you seen it within our office? We do disability work. People are out of work. They're sick. And where do they end up? A lot of times they're their ex-spouse's house because they have nowhere else to go. There's still a connection and a love there. They just can't live together.
Yeah.
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 I think that the movie also delves very much in, you brought it up earlier, Reed, about masculinity and who is specifically deserving of love. Like, Cal has allegedly, according to Jacob, in the meanest thing he's ever said, lost himself as a man and kind of just took himself for granted to a point where his wife left him because he just stopped taking care of himself. And frankly, that yellow Ralph Lauren polo shirt, oh God, that was 3 sizes too big on him. I think I would have stopped dating him too. But he marches in, oddly enough, like one of the A-list beautiful celebrities of all time, at least of the modern era, in Ryan Gosling, who is modeled after this classic, flawless Hollywood archetype.
Right.
I'm just curious if the movie is actually arguing for this ultra-polished, emotionally detached version, because seemingly at the end it kind of reverses itself and says that that's just some protective armor that they're putting on to kind of mask all their vulnerabilities and insecurities, and Jacob actually wants to be more like Cal.
Right. Yeah, I think this is part of where the film does get a lot right, and where its through lines do hold. And we call it a rom-com, but it's almost more the screwball couple is Cal and Jacob, right? They're almost the main couple of the movie, and I think it's kind of a classic version of a rom-com where one needs to, they're here and each needs to shift this way. They are on different extremes, and they each need to learn from the other and meet in the middle. And I think that's what happens here. I think Cal did need to stop wearing that yellow polo and put some effort into presentation and how he dressed and looked and carried himself. And Jacob needed to stop, running around like a child and actually commit to something. And I think that's the merging of these two characters, and I think that's what the film does do rather brilliantly.
Dad, speaking of the yellow polo at the moment, what brand are the shoes that you currently have on?
I have Skechers on.
Oh, okay.
See,
I thought you were still wearing the New Balances.
I have, unfortunately, a foot problem, so I have to have very wide, loose shoes. So, yes.
Yep.
So I actually do like you mentioning that Cal and Jacob are kind of the couple in this, but it also feels that Robbie has a huge place in the movie, particularly that his relationship with Cal seems to be, in a way, anchoring, because Cal is his example or his ideal of what love should be as an adult and how things should maybe work out. And every time Cal seems to fail, it's hardest on Robbie. Is he somehow the emotional anchor by which this also evolves, or is this kind of push and pull with Cal being the central character, or frankly our protagonist, is he kind of balancing between the extremes of the naivete of his son versus Jacob, who seems to have this other world perspective, and he's taking lessons from both?
The son is the poet. Mm-hmm. Whether you want to call him Lord Byron or Don Quixote chasing his own version of a windmill, he's the poet. He is the one who believes love is a divine calling and something special and wonderful, and can't ever see the base, the negatives, I doubt if you'll ever hear from him when you're saying, the line that I'm going to use or mention or in the quotes, I never stop loving you even when I hate you, and you have to be married to understand that. Okay? I doubt if he will ever say that, because it's just not in his nature as the poet.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I think for him, love is a concept, and he doesn't hold the requisite experience. So I'm wondering at a certain point if when he gets in the middle of his own stuff and it stops becoming a fantasy but rather a reality, if that perspective will shift.
I do too. I mean, he's definitely meant to be you called it a poet. I think that's absolutely appropriate. He's the idealist. He thinks love is transcendent. And I do think that there is an element of the film that's saying, and when you're growing up, you should maintain some of that. You should try to hold on to some of that. I don't think it's saying that you should go all the way he does, but he does seem to, Tom, you kind of put him and you put Cal between him and Jacob, and Cal's kind of trying to learn from both. And I think there is something to that. Something to that idea for sure. But I do wonder if he, as he grows up, if he could totally maintain that. That's hard to do.
except he was in that position. That was what the speech was. His becoming cynical.
His dark moment. Yeah.
And Carell steps up and stops him and saves him from accepting the cynical nature of love.
Right. Yeah.
Now, another aspect of this where I find the film to be somewhat different is it transforms what is normally female trope or a female film trope of the makeover into this weird male standard. Here we have a young, cynical man reconstructing an older, broken-hearted father in, frankly, a very comedic way. But we often, I think we talked on our regular show a couple of weeks ago, how the makeover scene is viewed differently between men and women. My little sister had to say that women don't see it as the transformation per se, and the way that I think I view it, which is going from the ugly duckling to kind of this other thing in the Pygmalion fashion, but rather the affirmation of all of the stuff that she already had internally and giving her the confidence to show that off.
Sure.
I could see that a bit in this, where Cal has lost himself. He's lost his own confidence. He's kind of taken a lot of these pieces for granted. And Jacob simply is giving him the keys back to his own level of confidence to take himself seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it really like Pygmalion or My Fair Lady or Pretty Woman? The character or the underlying woman is the same. She just needs the change in environment and clothes and speech patterns,
attitude,
whatever it is,
Yeah.
in order to come across. But it's the same person. It's the same root person.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's, I don't see, I mean, my favorite script writing podcast is Script Notes. I don't know if y'all listen to it, but they say all the time about character arcs and whatnot. And even though there is, a change, they also are very prone to say, like, people don't change. There's always the same, you're always the same person at the end of the movie as you were at the beginning. Something is different, but people don't change. And I think that's what these transformation scenes are meant to show. It's not reinventing yourself so much as letting yourself blossom. And that's what the ugly duckling is too, right? He's actually a swan the whole time, and lo and behold, here he comes. I often wonder if the gap hates this movie and doesn't let the, if you confess to watching it at the Gap, if you get like scolded, because every time I hear that line, I just imagine the CEO of that company just, putting their head in their hands and grimacing, because it's pretty brutal, but makes me laugh.
I don't think this movie does that many favors for New Balance or Ralph Lauren either.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, how his change in attitude, though, is just simply made by the, more or less, the pedals that he puts on. Mm-hmm. How does his reflection on that change from his dour attitude where he's kind of accepting of the circumstances to one more of, I'm going to fight for what I want out of my life? Is that just simply the change in the confidence level, or is that something reminiscent of something else?
Can you ask that again? I'm going to try to follow.
I probably should rephrase. I'm kind of wondering on his. He's going through a lot of grief and rejection. He is repeatedly at the same bar over and over and over, which is why Jacob takes an interest in him. And to a degree, part of that, he's also seeing similar guys throughout the movie who are drinking through a straw, the goofy dad with the mom jean butts, So there's a lot to be said here, but he switches his approach to the movie from being one of, I'm going to be reactive to my life, to one where I'm going to be assertive about controlling the narrative of my life. And is that simply because of the change in the makeover, or did, again, he change?
Well, I think it depends on what you mean by did he change. I think he changed. He changed something. He did change. He changed his behavior. He changed his attitude. He changed how he approached life and particularly women. But at the same time, I do like that the film, when he first quote unquote succeeds with a woman, he starts with kind of Jacob's tactics and then very quickly reverts into this kind of just honest sap with another great plot twist in the movie, the woman who ended up being his son's teacher. But he does maintain a sense of that old person. So, but I don't think it's just the clothes. I do think Jacob smacks him around for talking about David Lindhagen all the time, and he at least mostly stops moping about that, even though he still kind of brings it up with her. So I do, he changes some aspects of his approach and outlook, or at least puts on some armor. If we want to talk about Jacob wearing armor, maybe Cal needed a little bit of armor too. Maybe that's what it is. And I guess that's a question of, is that him or is that his clothes? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I don't have a great stance on that.
My thought on this is kind of like a house plant. You've had a house plant or a couple of house plants in a pot, and they become root bound, and you pull them out of the pot, and the roots are so grown together. Okay, that's marriage. You get to the point where your roots are so grown together, and that's what makes divorce so bitter, is pulling those roots apart. And once you do, you can repot the two plants. It may thrive, it may die. And that's ultimately what happens. Once he was able to get the feelings of pulling apart and get into a situation, he was able to thrive to some extent. Now, if, and I don't want to go to the end, they ever do get back, it will be a completely different relationship and a different marriage.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do think I think that's true. And that actually, I don't know if you all have seen the invite yet. I haven't, but I know there's a great line in it that says, "This relationship is over. It's your decision if you want to start a new one." Right, to the same couple, right? Like, a relation, two people can end a relationship and start a new one together, right? But like, I think that's what would happen. And to get to that ending, I do think they end up. I think the film, they have to end up together. I'm on Robbie's side on this one, I guess. I'm the idealistic one on that scenario. But I do think you're right. I think it needs to be it is a new beginning for them and a new relationship.
So of the three of us on this episode, Dad, you're the only one that's done a marriage for 38 years now, or going to be 38 years next week.
It'll be 38 next week, yes.
To that point, I have this feeling from objectively looking at the outside of couples that have been together for multiple decades that over stages, the relationship changes or morphs into a different type as things kind of go along. You have the initial phase, you have this other phase, and I can't probably describe them that well, not being married myself, but that it just you develop these different stages that you're still with the same person, but both of you have moved or morphed or evolved so differently that it's not hard to understand sometimes why people grow apart, because they just become different people. But by the same token, sometimes they're evolving together, and so the stages can still keep them around.
I should let your father speak with the experience, but my suspicion is that you have to work to make sure that you do grow together, that you can't let yourself grow apart, and that you do have to, you can't stay the same. That's not an option either. But since you are going to grow, you have to work to grow as one.
Yeah, I'm a believer that an adult will have as many as 9 different relationships, significant relationships with a partner, and sometimes those 7 or 8 of those are with the same person.
Do you have names for each of those?
No, but they're different times, and everybody's going to have different points and stuff. And part of the reason is as somebody changes and they say, "Oh, we're growing apart." Everybody grows apart. One person grows more in a certain area, somebody else grows more in another area. You're going to grow apart. The question is do you make the choice when that happens that, oh, I'm going to change spouses? Or do you make the choice of, I'm going to go back into the relationship and try to find common ground so that if we're apart in one area, maybe we can grow back together in a different area. And so it's a different relationship. And so you just constantly go in through there. And and part of the reason, and I keep saying this, and I said it in my podcast, my personal one, men, they keep talking about men in midlife crises. It's not midlife crises. It's not them. It's just feeling unimportant. And more than anything, it's feeling unimportant to your spouse. That she's got her activities in her life. And there's a reason why all these guys who play softball want their girlfriends and wives to come and watch them and go and, it's a guy thing. Okay? And when that stops happening, they start looking for it somewhere else. So, and for wives, they want the guy who's going to be the breadwinner. They're going to want the guy who's going to be the protector. It's wired into them psychologically. And when these things change, everything changes.
You're going to have to get a little bit away from trying to overly stereotype here, Dad. I feel like
I'm a social scientist by nature. I do stereotype.
So I'm going to pull us back with changing the conversation. Given your previous jokes about accountants, is it possibly the worst profession to get cuckolded by?
Yes.
By an accountant. Okay, but
yes, because
is it Kevin Bacon in the David Lindhagen?
Yeah, okay. The epitome of
when
the actual
when the accountant looks like David Lindhagen, it's a different story, I think.
Well, that's the joke.
Also, David Lindhagen is one of the most social accountants I think I've seen.
Yeah. Right.
Because the joke is, do you know how your accountant is an extrovert? He looks at your shoes instead of his own.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
My best friend's an accountant, Brad. If you ever listen to this, I love you.
Did you know, when rehearsing the scene of Ryan Gosling lifting Emma Stone in the air, Dirty Dancing style, Stone didn't realize she had a phobia of being lifted high up until the first time Gosling did it. She had a full meltdown, which Gosling described as, quote, like a possum falling out of a tree and trying to scratch your eyes out. Afterwards, she ran away crying and had to lie in a bed watching Labyrinth to calm down. Her phobia came from when at age 7 she fell off the high bars in gymnastics and broke both of her arms. They ended up using a body double for the lift, but they did use the recording of Stone's real screams.
funny. I did not know that.
I think one of them mentioned it. Did Emma Stone mention that moment in her acceptance speech for her first Oscar for La La Land? I swear one of them did it in an award
Told that
ceremony
story
or something. Yeah, or at least
Funny.
like referred to it in some
Right.
capacity.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'll have to ask the Ryan Gosling superfan. He'll probably have the categorical knowledge.
Man, he's charming. You know, I get it.
Well, yeah, I get it. I get it.
it.
Did you know? Emma Stone is a mere 3 days older than Leo Tipton. However, her character Hannah, approximately 24 to 25 years old, is 7 to 8 years older than Tipton's Jessica, who's roughly 17 years old.
Hollywood magic, baby.
I have a feeling Robbie is also not 13.
I would suspect not. Yeah.
Did you know? Kevin Bacon and Ryan Gosling are distant cousins. They are both descendants of the English Baldwin family.
I did not know that.
They have a very similar jawline.
Yeah.
Did you know? Jacob criticizes Cal for the imagery involved by him sipping his drink through a straw. At the mall restaurant where Richard toasts Hannah, only Hannah and Liz drink directly from their glasses. Everyone else at the table drinks through straws. I don't know what that says about lawyers.
Interesting. Directorial choice, maybe.
This movie has a definite way of foreshadowing things, but without drawing your attention to any of them. Because in the scene where Cal meets Marissa Tomei's character, she's asking about what he does, and she does eventually mention that she's a teacher, but it's so quick that he dismisses it so quickly that you don't realize what was happening, and then it comes back around, and you're like, oh shit. Yeah. That actually works very well, and it's very similar to the whole Nana thing, where the breadcrumbs are there, but you obviously assume because you associate that name or that word with like a grandma. That you're never expecting the daughter.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty brilliant.
Did you know? The part where Marissa Tomei's character props her leg on the coffee table and you can see Steve Carell framed by her legs, especially in the poster, is an homage to The Graduate.
I see that now. I hadn't thought of it until you mentioned it, but that makes perfect sense.
Very much so. Did you know? Emma Stone's character Hannah is a law student. Steve Carell originally wanted to be a lawyer, but he reached a question on an application form that said, "Why do you want to be a lawyer?" And he couldn't think of anything.
Did you all have to answer such a question?
I did, but it was more not on an application form. And to be quite honest, my answer's not that much better than his of nothing. Mine was, well, because I've screwed up everything else in my life.
Did you write that? I would love that,
honesty. I did in my essay, to be honest.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
I always ask that question in interviews, and if I get the answer, well, I want to make money, they're off the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because you can make money a lot of places, and I worry about people cutting corners and being dishonest in order to achieve that goal, but that's just me.
So we've reached the point in the episode where we'd normally take our first break, so we certainly can allow the audience a few moments of freedom while we maybe filibuster a couple of seconds of some crosstalk if you wish. We'll just open up the floor. Anything that we've got going on at the moment. I don't know.
Anything that the three of us have going on?
I mean, this might have been a mistake on my part to try and do 2 minutes of unstructured space in the episode.
Well,
yeah.
I'm a dad of 2 baby girls, so I'm tired. Okay. But I'm doing good.
Yeah, I would say so.
And
then you're trying to travel across country and do all of this promotion and such.
I have a film coming out on Friday. And my oldest she's really, for the last few nights, she started to want to sleep in our bed, and we've let her, which is, it's really sweet, but also she, for being so small, she takes up all the room. And I'm over at the edge of my bed, just like, okay, as long as you're comfy. but it's pretty precious. So that's, I don't know, that's top of mind on my. I haven't seen the Odyssey for that reason. I don't know if you all seen the Odyssey yet.
Yes.
I don't get to go to the movie theater hardly at all. Yeah.
So there's actually an IMAX from my normal apartment. So I'm up in central Wisconsin for the week, traveling for work. But normally when I'm in Madison or Fitchburg, more specifically for where I normally live most of the time, there's a IMAX right around the corner, literally from my apartment. And so he came down a couple of weeks ago to see it. It's one of the rare times that I really feel like I need to actually go see it in that format. Outside of that, I'm like, if I see it on a big screen, does it make that much difference, really? But yeah, it was good, but I have some reservations with it. That being said, I also had the same thing with Oppenheimer until I think I got the third time through it. So I definitely feel like I need to re-see it. It's a question of whether I bother to go back to the theater to see it, or if I need to, if I'm okay with just watching it at home in my giant flat screen.
Do you have a nice big TV? Yeah, man. I got one of those recently, and it is awesome.
Oh,
it's really great.
The theater-going experience.
To pick up on new tech.
Yeah, the theater-going experience at home anymore is so much different than it probably used to be, especially when I was even growing up with like the old digital projection TVs and such like that. Like it's so much different. The one of the very few areas that I will say that my TV does not translate to the theater experience, and it's especially apparent if you see the Odyssey in IMAX, is just simply the sound quality and how suffocating it can be. Like the true level to which he pounds you with sound in most of his movies, because Dunkirk was very much for me that way as well, with the artillery and all of the battle noise and everything else that's falling. It just feels suffocating in a way that is different, and you can't really experience that at home, even with like a surround sound. It's just not the same.
I've heard I haven't seen Odyssey yet, but I've heard a description of the Trojan horse scene, and just based on the description, it reminded me a lot of the scene in Dunkirk where they're taking cover in the boat.
Oh
I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but I'm very, if it does compare, I'm kind of curious what that is about Nolan, that he wants to cram a bunch of men in a tight space and put them at like, high stress, and anyway, just kind of an interesting parallel that I wonder if I just wonder what he's doing with that trope.
I think actually the Trojan horse, in many ways, for me, thinking back across his filmography, and obviously I've been to anybody who's in the audience that normally watches us, I've been a huge Nolan fan for well over 2 decades at this point. Yeah. Because I'm a amateur Batman historian at times as well. So nice. I kind of had a little bit more history with him than some others, but to me, the way that the Trojan horse plays out is very similar to the bookshelf in his daughter's bedroom in Interstellar. It's that lightning rod moment that they keep going back to or keep alluding to, and becomes kind of this key turning point, because it's not one scene, but it's this elongated scene that you don't see every part of or every angle until much later on in the movie, and then it feels like it has this added depth and emotional weight that is different.
Interesting. Okay. I gotta see it.
Yeah, it's one of the rare times anymore where it feels like we have a cultural moment that everybody sees the same thing. We just don't have those.
We just rely on Christopher Nolan and Spider-Man, I guess, is also going to be big.
How old are your daughters?
Horror films.
And certain horror films. Yeah, Obsession's obviously a huge one. My daughters are 2.5 and 1.
Oh, good luck. You're going to have this gap in your movie-going
filmography. Right. Yeah. I haven't even seen Toy Story 5. They're still too young to go see a movie at all. So it'll be fun to catch up on all of it eventually.
All right, so let's get back into the regular part of the show. But before we do, just a couple of quick notes. This week we're going to be having our episode on Alice in Wonderland, the 1951 Disney animated classic. That's going to be coming out on Wednesday. Your episode of First Watch Rewatch will be dropping tomorrow, and then the season finale of that show is going to be the following Sunday as we transition into whatever show we do after The Good Wife here. And then finally, next week, as we record on, I believe, this coming Wednesday, we're going to have our next tiebreaker episode as we debate between two films that are tied at number 7 on our greater overall list, Rear Window and Casablanca. We'll have my mother on for her 23rd appearance on the show to debate the merits
strong
of
opinions
each.
on that one.
Okay. I assume you favor one over the other?
I do.
Okay. Interesting.
I will do my plug. Sidebar on Monday, we'll be talking about being a father.
Nice.
So
maybe some skeleton key moments that I can figure out.
So, and it's kind of like learning how to or how to prioritize and how to juggle a career and the responsibilities of fatherhood. I must have done something right. All three of you seem to still like me.
That's a big win.
Well, at least it appears that way.
Ooh. Even appearing is a big win, quite frankly. Even if you care enough to appear like that, that's
It's not open contempt.
Win. That's right.
Yeah.
And none of us have really been criminally charged yet, so
Also,
yeah.
Yet.
I mean, if that's the low bar, yeah.
Well, in my family, that is.
That is true. That is fair. And all of us have at least a undergraduate degree, so if you're going based on that barometer as well, I suppose you could have done a lot worse.
Your sisters both have master's degrees, and you're getting a law degree.
Yeah, I'll be the first one with a doctorate and can hold it over their heads. Everybody needs to call me Esquire.
Well, they do call you lots of things, but usually under their breath.
Yeah. But that being said, before we move too much further, let us check in with our guest. Reed, what is going on with you? What are you working on, and where can people find you?
Oh goodness! I mean, besides working on being a father to my babies, I'm working on getting my film launched, which I know we're going to talk about, so I won't go into that. I've just finished a screenplay that was a commission for a company called Votive Film, and it's a novel adaptation. It's a action rom-com spy thriller kind of thing, and that's out of my hands now. They're out shopping that around to try to find a director, but my fingers are really crossed for that because that was a fun project, and I think it'd be a fun movie. And eventually, once I have some breathing room after this film's release, I'm going to get back to some of my old scripts and get cracking on those. I have a few that I'm really excited about, including finally a kids movie. The movie you all saw is an R-rated rom-com comedy for language, not for anything else but language. But still, I'd like to make something my kids can watch, and so I have that I'm excited about. And you can find me on Instagram at LineReadLine and Do Us Part the Movie, and I'd appreciate the follow.
And as always, you can find all of our guest links both on the website and in the show notes if you want to catch him there. But since you do have your movie coming out, let's transition to talking about that quickly. And I'll let my dad take the first question.
Well, I know for me, the first movies I saw, my dad introduced me to The Dirty Dozen and to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly when I was both about 5 or 6. Real light films my dad really wanted me to see. But that really influenced what my life or my taste in movies were and such. What kinds of films really influenced you as you were growing up and kind of led you into this area of acting and films in general?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. The thing that I'm going to swerve and kind of cheat a little bit. The thing that really captured my attention most was actually the TV show Friends. I really got into that from was kind of my teenage years. Basically, was when I was 13. I started on season 7 and followed to the end and watched all the reruns. And I've seen that show 100 times, it seems. And so that really, I really imbibed that and picked up the joke rhythm and the characterization, and that really, I think, impacted my writing more than any other thing. And there are several other sitcoms that I also fell in love with through that. How I Met Your Mother, I started watching after Friends ended. There's just that kind of genre really captured me. But when it comes to movies that I loved, man, I mean, I always loved the idea of movies. When I used to pretend, like when I was imagining, it was always as if it was a movie. I don't know why that is, but it just made sense to me that I was always like directing, I guess, even though I never really considered myself a director. But movies that I watched again and again: Indiana Jones, Dumb and Dumber. We watched annually on our drives up to Colorado. That's a big one. The Die Hard films, I really got into those. Oh goodness! Eventually, I got into. You mentioned Thomas. You mentioned you were kind of a Batman fan. The Batman Begins really captured my attention, and then of course The Dark Knight caught my attention even more. And then, I mean, to spoil it, I saw Casablanca when I was about 20, and that's where I fall on that war. I just love that movie. I'm sure I'm missing 300 other films, but yeah, I think the entity that's most impacted my writing and tone was actually probably Friends. I just love that banter, and I love those characters, and I just think it's a nice, comfortable way to spend a half hour.
So before I get into my first question, because I'm going to mention How I Met Your Mother more specifically, if you're not familiar with that show or have not yet seen Do Us Part, I will say that there's some spoilers in here, so just be a little bit careful, because I'm going to talk a little bit more from, as a viewer who's seen the movie, some things that I wanted to know or wanted to get some advanced knowledge of. So I would just suggest go watch both of them, highly recommended by yours truly, and then come back and watch these parts for, let's say, some more informative or depth behind both of those things. But you had mentioned before we ever started the show, and then you brought it back up here again, How I Met Your Mother, which Dana and I were both a fan of. When we went over for, I want to say, Christmas in like 2008, my brother in Germany had been watching, and they get all of those shows on public television for free at the time. And he caught us up with the show, and then we watched it through the last 5-6 different seasons or such as they were coming out. But that's always been an informative show for me as well. So being a huge fan of that show, I feel like I can see several of the character archetypes used in Do Us Part, specifically with, I would say, Rose is very similar to Robin, maybe not in like all of the various permutations, but has very much of that non-committal attitude, a little bit tomboyish in a certain way. But the one that I guess sticks out for me the most is your character, specifically of Mark, is very much, in my sense, I think it's obvious to say he's very much like Barney, but I think there's a lot of Marshall in him as well. That he's the best friend. He has a good heart and a good nature to him that feels like it's his North Star, but he also has the Barney antics and the womanizing that's much more on the surface as well. So I guess the one part I would say about Mark is that he never truly alienates himself, though, from the audience, because despite all of the antics, and good Lord knows, as you wrote it, it has some raunchiness to it, obviously, for being rated R and such. But he very much feels, because he's the heart of it, I would actually say that to a degree, he is more of our protagonist than Ryan is at times, because we see much more through his eyes and the change of things. So I guess, what would you say is the protagonist of your group? Is it Mark, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, and I've thought about this myself. I honestly don't know. I think there's an argument for all of them. I think you could argue. I think there's maybe a stronger argument that Rose and or Mark are the antagonist, protagonist, depending on which one you want to be which, and Ryan is, I don't want to call him the secondary character, because that's not accurate, but a deuteragonist of some sort. But at the same time, I think you can definitely see him as the protagonist as well. I think I don't want to. I wrote this. This was one of the first full length pieces that I wrote. It was originally a play, but it was the first like 90-minute piece that I'd written. I'd otherwise only written short scripts or short stories, right, that are meant to be 10-minute things or maybe a 20-minute thing. And so this was the first full-length piece I wrote, and by sheer dumb luck, I wrote a piece in which I think all three characters have an arc. And having written many scripts since then, I kind of don't know how I did it, and I mean, that's hard to do. Like, that's I got very lucky that I just happened to conceive of a story and characters where all three could grow and change and have this like satisfying arc, both independently and as a unit. Because that is something that in other scripts, it's just hard to navigate a character arc. Just one satisfying good arc. And so I think there's an argument that either one of them could be a protagonist or antagonist. But I do think the two that most come to head are Rose and Mark, and you could pick which one is which from your point of view.
I don't know if I would have identified either of them as an antagonist so much as the circumstances themselves become more of the antagonist to me watching the film.
Yeah, but they're certainly in opposition, right? They're the two that are in opposing forces. Yeah.
I suppose, especially in the early portion of the film, I'm not sure they're at opposing forces by the end of the film, though.
No. I think that's part of the luck of the arc is that they all kind of grow together again, and
right.
But yeah.
You got your question, Dad?
Oh, I do. So, in our office, and I have to warn all new employees of this dynamic. My wife is the office manager, and my son is the heir to be running or taking over.
Oh, wow.
So we have a tendency to have rather family dynamics that come in here that can make people feel a little uncomfortable. In your film, one of the things I noted is that your character is constantly kind of trapped in between, and there's a little bit of tension, almost feeling uncomfortable about what I should do or how I should react through this. And it comes across a little bit through it. I wondered how difficult it was to be in that kind of a situation where you felt you're supposed to be feeling a little uncomfortable, and yet you have to direct yourself and direct the characters you're interacting with.
Yes, directing and acting at the same time is something I would not recommend people do unless they have an abundant amount of time to watch footage and rewatch, and we did not have that. We were going on the fly. I did have some advantages in that my two co-stars had done the play version, and so they kind of knew the characters well, and that's partly why I asked them, so that I knew they could do it quickly, and I knew they got it. But I will also say that I try to have a collaborative set, and I told people, if you notice something in my performance that needs to be redone, please let me know, because I probably can't see it and won't have time to rewatch. And so I took feedback from other people, and I mean, there's a scene, one of the kind of pivotal scenes was, I'm going to say basically co-directed by Ashley Scott, who played Liv, the red-haired friend. She was only there for the first 3 days, but she was actually one of our acting teachers. And I did a scene, and it was kind of the big blow-up scene where I'm, the low point of the film, and I'd done 2 takes, and it was like, great, we got it. And she was like, no, you need to sit down again, read, please. I know, and she even, I remember saying, like, I know you're busy. I know you have a lot on your plate right now, but I need you to sit down and do this scene again, and I need you to actually listen to Ryan and be present with him. And like, she just did, calm me down and let me do that again, and that ended up being the take we used. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to do when you're acting with someone at the same time you're trying to judge is a harsh word, but make a decision about their performance and what notes you want to give. And maybe that's where some of the uncomfortable franticness came from, right? That might have served the character in some way, that it came through in certain moments. But it was certainly a challenge. But I do think my crew and set, I relied on them a lot, and I think they were huge assets in supporting this whole endeavor.
So a big part of the film takes place during college and specifically at UVA, your alma mater, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
How did going there and your experiences while you were there inform the story and the film?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the first draft of this thing when I was 2 years out of college, and I really felt at home at UVA. I was comfortable. I loved being there. I loved the collegiate atmosphere. I loved being able to study in multiple topics and jump from my math class to play rehearsal, and then do fraternity intramural sports at night. Right? I just thought it was a really wonderful 4 years. So much that I actually took a fifth year. Um, and so I was really nostalgic for that. And at the same time, I think your early 20s are fraught with romantic complications, and I certainly had my fair share of those. And so I kind of poured those into the story. Where Rose, you might have noticed, she gets a lot of that, like, I don't want to leave college, I don't want things to change, which is part of the. I think it's a big part of her character in the film, and part that motivates a lot of her decisions and lack of decisions that end up in the scenario they're in. So she got a lot of that aspect of my mindset at that time. When it comes to actually shooting at UVA, funnily enough, Travis, my co-star, also graduated from UVA. That was a total coincidence, actually. But it was really fun to shoot there. I was hoping we'd get to shoot there. I didn't know for sure that that's how it was going to work out. I was still 3 weeks away from starting production from cameras on. I actually didn't know what state we were going to be in. I was hoping it would be Virginia, but I was looking at wedding venues in several different states because that was going to be the main base, right? Was this wedding venue. And fortunately, the one in Charlottesville worked out, so we were able to go there. But it was a frantic search for our home for the actual 2 weeks of production. But it was really fun. I mean, we kind of shot without permission at UVA. My apologies to my school. I just kind of figured that we were such a small crew and we were so careful about staying out of the way that you wouldn't, be too upset by us. But it was really fun to use that as the backdrop because I just have such fond memories of that place.
So for those of us on the outside that kind of look into the movie industry and such, we always kind of look favorably on and find it fascinating to what is the film circuit. You had to go through a large amount of that, and ultimately, I guess you got a nice trophy at Naples. What was the film circuit like? Did you enjoy it? What's something surprising about it that you would never have guessed?
The film festival circuit, I assume you
Yes.
mean the festival circuit. I did enjoy. I mean, it's really really fun going to festivals and watching with a crowd of people who typically love movies, and that's unbeatable. So that was very fun. The things that surprised me, I mean, I knew it was competitive, but it's just fierce, man. I mean, it is hard to get in places, and you're gonna and it makes no sense, right? You're gonna be rejected from a smaller festival and then get accepted into a bigger festival within the same week, and that doesn't make any sense because wait, hold up, how did why did the big festival take us but the little festival didn't? How does that work? And you meet wonderful filmmakers. You realize. I thought I had done kind of a Herculean task in making a movie, and I think I had, but you meet 100 other people who did the same Herculean task, pulling an independent film into existence, because it is just never easy. And I heard so many times, which is basically true of my movie. These people are like, I spent 10 years getting this done. It took 10 years from trying to make this happen. And so you get really humbled by the drive and talent of all of your compatriots in this fierce knife fight to get screenings at these festivals. And so, yeah, I think that was the biggest surprise, just really realizing how many good, talented filmmakers there are fighting this good fight. But I do think it's a really rewarding experience to go through, and I wouldn't change the actual going through it and going to these festivals and meeting people and meeting the directors. Because I know that, I mean, as much as rejection as there is, the directors, they do mean well. They want to support filmmakers. It's just there's too many films for too few slots, and decisions have to be made. So it's just tough.
And to that note, you're obviously one of the lucky few that have kind of gotten to this moment where your film's about to be released, and you're, as a small creator, that's just an enormous feat. So I'm just wondering what you can tell us about how you're feeling at this moment of, I don't know if I would call it triumph, but
no, it's
for lack
mostly
of a better term.
it's. I mean, I wish I could say triumph, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved. But my advice to any filmmakers who are listening, and you'll hear this again and again, and it's easy to kind of discount it because I totally discounted it. But getting to this point, as great as it is, it really does feel like now the fight really starts, because we're in we're in a war for attention with Obsession and Casablanca, both, right? Like, what am I going to watch tonight? A movie that I know and have heard of with people I recognize, and that maybe it's a classic or maybe it's a new smash hit, or am I going to watch this little indie film that has 3 actors I've never heard of? And yeah, maybe it won some awards at some of the medium-sized festivals, but yeah, I'll go watch Casablanca again. It's just that feels very daunting to me. And so my advice to these younger but just people making a film is plan your marketing budget early, and don't ignore that aspect of it, because you get to a point where it's like, okay, I've made the movie, but now you have to get attention to it, and that's a whole new expenditure spreadsheet. And I did not. I mean, I don't have that budget. I never budgeted for that, and I don't have it, and that's just I couldn't have had both. I spent everything I could on the movie, and it got to where it is. But if you are smart and planning ahead, plan for a marketing budget, because you're going to want to, even if you pick up distribution, you're going to want to do some of your own marketing to get attention. And so for those who are listening, I'm going to, ask with no hint of desperation in my voice, watch it and review it and tell your friends, because this is going to live and die by word of mouth. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
How much of this story did you actually take from your own experiences, either your personal life or friends, or?
I mean, the experience of the wedding itself is totally fiction, right? I've never done this or been a part of this at a wedding. That's certainly the heightened element of the film, right? This is something that most people wouldn't do. But when it comes to like the heart of the emotions, there's a lot of personal stories there. A lot of, close friendships that almost dated and didn't, or people I did date and broke up with, and oh, man, should I have done that? Should we try this again? Just those doubts of your early 20s, and people I fell in love with who didn't fall in love with me, right? You get all flavors of that in your early 20s, and so that really did make it into the script, for sure. None of the events are strictly autobiographical, but the emotion is certainly pretty much entirely. I would say there's not an emotional relationship in there that I didn't experience in some way from either point of view.
Back in April, when we originally saw the film, you did speak afterwards at the festival very glowingly about the scenes that were added between the play and the film, and specifically about the scene with the bride in particular, which I find to be very much the linchpin almost of the second half of the movie, where it feels like it solves some of the questions and really gives that final kick to, especially as an audience, give that final catharsis to the final portion of the film, that everybody feels like, okay, now I can accept everything that's been going on, because while we're rooting for these characters, we understand now why we have to be heartbroken, but we're okay with it at the end of the film. So could you talk a little bit about some of these additional added scenes to the film, how they kind of came about, and why you felt that scene in particular was mention of highlighting?
Yeah, so the play is written where it's basically just the 3 characters, Mark, Ryan, and Rose, the groom, the best man, and the girl coming to crash the wedding. And it's 5 long scenes in a flashback, wedding structure, which obviously doesn't translate to film, so I had to crack that open and open that up. And in the process, I realized that I could add some of these characters who were discussed a lot in the play, but we never actually saw Ben and Liv, who are the other friends in the group, Claire, who's Ryan's sister, and then the big one was Julia, the bride. And my first instinct was like, well, I could add Julia. My first instinct was to say, no, hold up. She's better served as this off-screen presence that kind of, motivates everything, but we don't want to see her. We want to leave that to the audience's imagination and just let them conclude what they do about the bride and that element of the story. But I then thought about how if I did include her, the only interaction was between her and Rose. If you don't see her and Mark together, you don't see her and the groom together. If you just see Rose run into Julia, the person who's crashing the wedding and the bride who she's trying to best, if you want to, cuckold, however you want to say it. What would that interaction look like? And what do I know of Julia, the character, who I've written characters talking about her, but I've never really conceived, who is she and how would she respond to this? And the thing that really gave her shape, well, for one, she was very much inspired by my now wife. At the time I wrote her, she was still my girlfriend. But the thing that I liked about that idea of Rose meeting Julia is that Rose is still, she's kind of stuck in the past. She's terrified of losing what she thinks she might lose. And she's not very secure in her own person yet, right? And so I thought, okay, well, let's just make Julia the exact opposite of that. She's very secure in who she is and what she thinks and what she wants, but she's also mature enough to say, if this doesn't go the way I want it to go, I'll live. I don't want that, but I know that I can survive that. And so then let's like mash up this sweet but kind of insecure romantic lead that we have with this very almost like stoic but not unemotional stalwart bride, who instead of drawing claws and being mean about it takes it with just magnanimity and grace. And so I thought that was lovely and unexpected, and again very much inspired by my girlfriend, now my wife. Again, when I told her at one point that I'd had feelings for a friend of hers, her response was, before we were dating, right? But like, before I met you, just so you know, I was really kind of liked her and whatever. And her response was like, yeah, I get it. It's like, there's never any jealousy. There's never any like, oh, does he really like me more? It was just like, yeah, of course you did. She's great. Anyway, I respect the hell out of that emotional maturity to be like, yeah, you've known people before, you've loved people before. I'm not a fool. I have too, and so to put that into this character was really fun for me. And I love Laura Delhauer, who played Julia. I love her performance very much. I do wish my wife had been able to play it just because it's my wife. And she's a talented actress in her own right, but she was 7 months pregnant at the time. And if that had been the person you see in that scene, it really recontextualizes the whole film. And so it just wasn't in the cards. But Laura Delhauer is an amazing actress and really carried the grace of that scene beautifully. So, I'm very grateful to her. But I'm grateful to my wife for inspiring the character that made that scene so poignant.
And I would say it's one of the few things that really stands out or makes the film unique comparatively, because you just don't see that level of grace and security in most film characters.
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to say that I was somewhat in the same situation. My wife was engaged when I met her. And
I'm already, I'm hooked.
Yeah.
Let's hear this story.
I pursued, and she kind of said no, and then I stopped. Then she pursued back, and then they broke up. And
while she was still engaged, okay.
I didn't say that out loud, did I? There's
hey,
nobody
man,
listening, right? Okay.
We're talking about crazy, stupid love. I get
it. Then actually ending up going out to dinner with him, and sitting there and having conversations.
I don't recall that part of this story.
Yeah, I did.
About your scenario, and like just talking man to man about, we both love this woman. What do we do about it?
The three of us were together. She wanted us to go and have dinner together to rectify. And this is a guy that was following us around and leaving notes. I know what kind of car he drives.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway.
No wonder you wanted to watch Obsession recently. Wow. Okay.
Anyway, the whole point being is the only reason I did it is because I thought, all right, well, what have I got to lose? I mean, she's with me now, and I'm completely comfortable with who I am.
Yeah.
So
you were Julia in that situation. He was not. He was not as graceful. Yeah.
I don't think I was probably as eloquent about it,
Sure.
or as calm, but I'd like to, in my own mind, think that.
Sure.
Did you have any major questions left, Ed?
The only one is, and I always ask this when I'm talking to somebody: writing, directing, or acting? If you had to choose one, which?
If I had to choose, if you made me choose, well, there's also the question of would I actually succeed at it? If I had to choose and would be successful at it, I would probably say acting. I love acting. It's my happy place. It feels, it's just something about it. I don't know why. I think it's, in some ways, I think it's just incredibly silly exercise, but I just love it. I can't help it. I think it's incredibly fun to perform on theater and on film. I do love that, but I do think that I stand out most and have the most quote unquote competitive advantage as a writer. And that's where I realized eventually, like, if I'm going to make it in any way in this industry or in this endeavor, it will be by writing my own material. And so that became my focus eventually, and still in many ways is. I hope to write stuff I can act in, like I did this film, but that will have that will be my chess move or whatever. That's my queen moving forward. Directing, I found, I never really wanted to be a director, and I still almost have trouble conceiving myself as a director. Even as I told you, when I was a kid, I was kind of directing films with my action figures, but I never really felt that that's what I was doing until out of just necessity, I did this film and directed it, and I did find I really liked it. And so I'm very curious about doing it again, and I'm very curious about doing it with a script that I didn't write, because that'd be a new challenge, right? When you write it, you have all these preconceived ideas, and you get to kind of do it. But I'd be very curious about doing it in a film that I didn't write, and if I act in, I don't have the lead role, because that's hard to maintain. But I did find I really did enjoy it and hope to do it again. But I try. Dan, I kind of took all those options and said all three. But I think my answer is I love acting most. But I'm focused on writing, and secretly kind of love directing now. So hope to do it again.
Well, hopefully your newest script will also take off, and then we can have part 2 of whatever series this shall become.
That will be out of I will not get to write, or I will not get to direct or act in that one. That's going to be a very expensive movie, and they're going to stunt cast it any way they can. So I'll just be the writer on that one. But I am proud of it, and I hope it does get made someday, because it's a fun little story. So.
And so just a reminder to everyone that Do Us Part will be coming out. If you are in the LA or New York market this coming weekend, that's going to be August 6th through the 8th, I think, is the opening weekend here.
7th through the 13th in New York.
7th through the 13th. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then it will be on streaming coming on August 14th. You said Apple, Amazon, and Fandango were the 3 primary?
Those are the ones I know at the moment. But yeah, that's the main push, I think. And then it'll be at a theater in LA on August 14th as well. So
excellent. So check those out there, and let us know what you think. We would be glad to hear back from you, and hopefully our recommendation is warranted for you. But
yeah, I would say if you like Crazy Stupid Love and Friends and How I Met Your Mother and When Harry Met Sally, I think there's something in here for you, is my guess.
I would agree. Absolutely. Yes. But let's jump back into the discussion we left off on with Crazy Stupid Love. We left off at Best Performance. Dad, who do you have down?
I have Steve Carell. I think this was more of a serious role for him than just the comedic, I mean, most people were used to watching him as Michael Scott at this point in time. And this was much more, showed that he actually had some real depth in his performance, not quite as much as in Little Miss Sunshine, but it continued along that road where he was going to start being able to do more serious parts.
I did not nominate him for best performance. I have him as most charismatic because I find that he has to be, despite the fact that he's this dorky dad and has this range of different outcomes throughout the movie, you always have to be drawn back to him and his eventual success for the movie to realistically work. And I like you am fascinated by his level of range because Michael Scott to me is such an unlikable character, and yet because Carell's playing him, he is a likable character. It's a weird dance that he tries to navigate between all of these various extremes. I think Michael Scott as a character softens the longer he goes, and he has this evolution of maturity. But when you first meet him, he's kind of this unintentionally racist and buffoonish boss, very much based on the character from the original show in Britain. But I think he softens and his heart kind of comes out as the show goes, and I wonder how much influence Carell has in that. Because you see that in several other films. You mentioned Little Miss Sunshine. Dan in real life has a lot of these elements as well. And I think he wears it pretty well in something where we feel he was probably the best actor of that film, even though he didn't get as much praise as other people from a Oscar-nominated film in The Big Short. I actually think that might be his best acting performance as far as like a true serious role. But his range as an actor, I think, is understated because most people view him very much as a comedic actor.
One of the things I'd point out is back, I think it was 2014, I went on a cruise for my 25th anniversary, and Second City performers were performing on there. They had video of Steve Carell performing at Second City in Chicago. And after that, they had commented that a lot of the people in Second City thought that his acting range was better than any of the other performers that they had ever had, and actually had taken bets as to whether he would ever be either given an Oscar or at least nominated for an Oscar. So
that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I think I voted for him as best performance in this film as well. It's tough. It's a tough. You can make an argument for 3 or 4 of these actors, I think, but I did vote for him as well, and I do think his range is impeccable. Have you all seen Foxcatcher?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, who knew he could play just a sadistic villain too? He's just he's really good.
Absolutely. Personally, though, my best performance, I went with Ryan Gosling because I think
it's a fair vote. Yeah.
Well, I just tried to weigh between. I love Carell, but if you're asking me what's the impression of a character that stands out from the film for me, the more indelible of the two, I'm thinking Gosling, because especially with all of the memes and the gifs that get passed around, there are parts of that makeover scene, like him reacting to Steve Carell with the Velcro wallet for the first time.
That's my favorite line. I'm
that,
calling out my favorite line of the movie.
Yeah. So there's several gifts like that of this Jacob Palmer character that have made their way around. And I just feel that even though he changes, he evolves, he does something different, there's a way that that character is done that never... That's the one true complaint I have about the movie. Ryan Gosling is so goddamn likable in this movie that you never feel like he's inadequate to date Emma Stone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when Carell complains about him being with her, you're like, I mean, really? do you have a real complaint here?
Well, he's like kind of a pig, right? Like he chases women only to. You never see him get punished for the thing
that's true.
The thing that he does in this movie, right, is theoretically, quote unquote, okay. In that I don't think he's getting women drunk and taking advantage of anybody, right? I think everything is above the board. Like that's great, but the only person who sees like emotional repercussions for this casuality, is that a word? Casualness, is Steve Carell with the teacher, right? He's the only one who actually has to face up to a woman he's not called the next day. And I do get the feeling that Jacob is not calling these women the next day. He never really explicitly says that, but he never gets the comeuppance of like, hey, jerkwad, so he never gets that punishment in a way. But you know that Steve Carell knows he deserves it, and so I think that's the anger that he feels at the end.
I have Gosling too. He has a quality about, he's the type of person, or at least comes across on screen as, he could steal your wallet and have you say thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Charisma.
So I would assume you have him for secondary then, Dad?
Yes.
Okay.
Me as well. Yeah, me as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the obvious choice. But since I went with Carell for my most charismatic, I'm going to go in a slightly different direction. I had Jonah Bobo as Robbie because, again, I very much feel like this is a three-legged stool. And while that haircut of his definitely bothers me, like, it is so long and moppish, I'm like, take a scissor. But anyway, I digress. But his contribution to the film, I feel if you're not going to do the script writing, and I don't think that the direction is by any means bad, but there's nothing that truly stands out about it. To me, this is a written film and this is an acted film more than anything else. Sure. So by that extension, the third most important character to this, other than maybe the just sheer mentions of David Lindhagen, as often as it is, because I want to say it's like 20 some times throughout the movie. I just have to feel like it's him because he feels that emotional groundedness that brings us back to the ideals we wish we had, even as adults. Because I don't think kids are watching this movie. I don't even think, like, usually something early 20s people are probably watching this movie. It's more like the people that have loved and lost. They've gone through their own battles. They've felt some things. They've been in and out of relationships. So at least like late 20s, but more likely in their 30s and maybe early 40s is the target audience for this movie. And they wish they had a certain level of idealism that's still left. So he brings a groundedness to that. I guess somebody put it as an extreme earlier in the show, but bringing us back to that. And I feel like in a lesser actor's ability, it would have felt way too saccharine and sappy, but he does a good job of kind of making it feel like it's very much from a child's perspective, and thus why we can kind of write it off, but we can't dismiss it totally.
I like that pick. My most charismatic was Emma Stone. I think I'm always surprised when I rewatch this movie how little she's actually in it. Like she really, like she's very memorable for having no scenes. You have to fall in love with her and believe that this guy, could fall in love with her in a way that changes it. I mean, the writing decision to have a 10-minute scene on page 80 with Jacob and her, right? This, like, they don't fall in love until page 80, and then we just kind of go into their territory for 10 minutes, and it's just such a cute scene. And I just think she just blows off the screen or pulls a character off the page, whatever it is. I just think she pops incredibly well in this film and is so charming that you forget that she's only in it for 3 scenes or whatever.
She has to be oddly memorable. Yeah. And I don't know if there's for as few points as she is, I don't know if there's anything more charismatic than that. I seriously considered her for this because I love her as an actress, and she is, of anybody in this movie, that includes multiple different Oscar winners and nominees, I think she's by far the biggest or probably best single actress in the film because of the amount of range. I mean, you can see Easy A and Begonia and still think, oh yeah, it's still her, but my goodness, her ability to just show up and be great is outstanding.
I have Marissa Tomei.
Oh, really? Okay.
She played crazy brilliantly. It stood out. The minute I saw that, I remembered a video I saw of the British comedian Jimmy Carr counseling one kid about something, and he was telling him, he says, "Do you know what woman you never want to be with?" He says, Never put your dick in crazy. That's the case.
I cannot endorse anything there. And I think we're best served by moving on to best scene.
You said explicit language. It may occur.
Yeah, it's not the language part. Funny. It's more of the sentiment. I can neither agree nor disagree with anything.
Well, you get the feeling, I mean, you know, she's the repercussions that Steve Carell faces, right? And through those repercussions, he also hurts his wife. And so you do, I leave that interaction feeling more like, you know, Steve Carell was in the wrong in this regard. But I do think she's so funny. That's one of those, it is a plot twist. And it's such a good plot twist that it almost makes you not expect a second plot twist when the second one comes. But I think she's great in this role, and I think her scene is just hysterical.
One of the few other areas where I question it a little bit, and I know this is probably more aimed at remaining questions, I just have a hard time believing that Cal, who's been with one woman ever and for 20 plus years, would all of a sudden get into this notion where he's a casual dater like that. Like, I can see her definitely being picked up by him, but him not to call at all or not to follow up on that, it feels a little strange for me.
Yeah, I can buy that for sure. Seems like he would have more what's the word? Compunctions or just some difficulty doing that. And they could have included that scene, you know, where he talks to Jacob about it and he feels guilty for not doing it. Like, that could have been included.
It might be feelings of guilt for doing it.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
All right. Let's move to best scene. I have 5 nominees here. I have the cold open with the kind of leaping out of the car and the divorce over creme brulee moment. Then I have the male makeover montage at Century City. I have the parent-teacher conferences, which we just mentioned. I have the Nana scene, which I will say encompasses every character seemingly coming together all at once over the mini golf set. And then I have the final graduation speech. Now, I think I hit most of the big moments, but are there any other nominated scenes that either of you would like to throw out here?
Different from those 5?
Yes.
I think that if you can call it all one scene, I would nominate the Jacob Emma Stone, Jacob Hannah.
Oh, sure.
Scene. I mean, it's a long 10 minutes. If you can call that all one scene, but I think that just it almost stands alone as a short film of just 2 people falling in love. I wouldn't choose it, but I think it could be nominated.
Any for you, Dad?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So out of these 6 then, cold open, male makeover montage, parent-teacher conferences, dirty dancing montage, Nana, and graduation, what is the best scene?
You know what? I'm going to change my mind. I was going to vote the Nana scene, the big plot twist. And I still almost want to, but I'm kind of doing it to be contrarian maybe. But I'm going to argue that scene on its own, without the context of the build-up, you know, if I'm just thinking of like best scene, I'm going to go with the Dirty Dancing montage, because I think it stands like as a scene in itself. I think it stands alone and is very memorable and is, again, such a bold swing for the film, which is already so unusually structured. To do what it did and pull it off, it must be a pretty great scene. So I'm going to dark horse pick that scene, I guess.
I am going to go with, I'm going to go with the Nana scene, because I think everything is relying on that scene being in the center of it. We talked about there are 2 big kind of twists in this, and both are nominated here, but ultimately bringing in that escalation, and it's one thing to have Steve Carell attacked because of something that he has no clue what's going on, and then to bring in the David Lindhagen of it all and throw in it just has so many moving parts to kind of coalesce around that. If it doesn't work, if it's poorly written, if you don't have the comedic timing or the exits and entrances, I just think that that scene could go so poorly that the fact that it ends up being so good it has to be the best scene for me.
I have that as my best scene as well. Simply because it reminded me of a more modern version of the French farce, going in one door, somebody else coming out. It's the same kind of utter confusion, from punches in the face, missing the mark and hitting somebody else, to complete unknown why anybody is doing anything in this.
Have any of you ever fought before, or whatever that line is when?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I won't fight y'all on that choice, and probably do deep down agree with you. I'm just trying to be a little spicy on my choice. The thing I marvel at, and I would love to talk to Dan Fogelman about it. If he knew that, like, when did he decide that Jacob would fall in love with Cal's daughter? And, like, when did he decide to keep that a secret from the audience? Because I wonder if there was a version of the script at some point where that was more forefront and was used for dramatic irony, or maybe Cal found out earlier and that was like the major source of conflict. I really wonder if it was always like, no, that's going to be the plot twist, or if at some point he realized, like, oh, I should hide this until late in the film. And that's a big question I have, because the decision to leave it as a plot twist, I think, is just pretty inspired.
As far as my favorite scene, as much as I like the Nana moment, if I am rewatching this film, the one that I really love the most is the male makeover, because of how good Gosling is in it. And that interaction of, like, so much judgment at this frumpy dad in his giant yellow polo shirt that the polo shirt is so bad, so yellow. But, from everything from the New Balance sneakers and throwing him into the rest of the food court and slapping him repeatedly over and over, the Velcro wallet, I just love it as so much of what this film represents, especially the first half.
That's mine as well. And I'm not going to add too much more to what you've already said. It is great.
My favorite is going to be, I'm going to say the Nana scene, the plot twist scene. That's certainly my favorite scene. I rewatch it a lot. I think it's very funny, and again, just a piece of incredible writing.
The plot twist for me is my most indelible, because it frankly has to be. When you think on this movie, the fact that they all intertwine in this way is really something that only happens in a Hollywood movie, but it pays off. And I don't think anybody is dissatisfied by having this, I don't know, kismet of sorts in a script like this. But yeah, it's by far the number one thing I think about.
Same for me.
I actually went with parent-teacher conferences.
Okay.
I just find the whole idea of being, cornered for your behavior to be rather impactful to me, because I have a friend from high school who is a politician now, who oftentimes I've wondered if people only knew what he was really like in high school. So.
To be fair, he's not a very successful politician. So.
No, that's true. But, yes. So that's why I picked it. I just love the scene. So
it's very funny.
All right.
We haven't shouted out Julianne Moore any, but she's great as well.
I want to say she's underutilized. I think she's really good for being in this, but she doesn't have as much to do. And it's kind of the same problem we have with Emma Stone. They may be the two best actors out of a sea of great actors in this cast, but like she's given maybe 3 big scenes or 3 big moments, and otherwise she's just kind of in there with what's going on with the male action in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
The closest that anything comes is the scene where she calls about the water heater.
Yeah.
I mean, because, and again, I did divorce work for about a decade until I just couldn't stomach it anymore. But I've never seen people who have not gone through the back and forth. Oh, am I doing the right thing? Oh, this inner turmoil that I'm feeling. On and on and on. And I know I could see some of it, but I wish they would have given a little bit more juice to that. I think it would have made a more impactful ending. But the only thing they do is that one scene, which seems in some way that she's reaching out for her old life.
Yeah.
Let's move to best lines here, and we'll just kind of go in a round robin fashion. But I will start with the one that Dad mentioned before. Cal, I have loved her even when I have hated her. Only married couples will understand that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's not a line, but I just love the Velcro rip. The Velcro wallet rip. Makes me crack up.
Jacob, are you the billionaire owner of Apple computers? Cal, no. Jacob, oh, okay. In that case, you've got no right to wear New Balance sneakers. Ever.
I've got Hannah. Fuck, seriously? It's like you're photoshopped.
Here's I'm gonna throw one in that's God, I'm not gonna remember the line. And I'm kind of cheating here by even talking about it as a line, but I'll say the line. Maybe you remind me of someone. Because there's this moment when Cal presses this early on. He presses Jacob like, "What are you doing with me? Why are you helping me?" And Jacob says, "Maybe you remind me of someone." And they never really call attention to that, and it comes and goes. And it's only in that scene later on, the Dirty Dancing scene, where he starts talking about his dad, who was apparently this like sweet, loving man, while his mother was vain and kind of cruel and rolled over the dad, it sounds like. And you understand why Jacob took to Cal like he did. And I think that line, when you put it in that context, is a lovely little nugget.
I think you're up, Dad.
Yep. In his true Leisure Suit Larry moment, Jacob, the war between the sexes is over, and we won, okay? We won the second women started doing pole dancing for exercise. But even though we won, they still deserve our respect. Make them feel beautiful. Listen to their problems. Open the door for them. How generous of him.
Jacob, let's talk about how many women you've been with. Cal, sexually? Jacob, yeah, no, I mean break dance fighting.
This is Emily. I went to go see the new Twilight movie by myself, and it was so bad.
I could have probably went on for a while, but I had a feeling I shouldn't, so I'm out.
Oh, I have plenty more. I mean, this is one of those where there's a line a minute almost. Keep going. But Jacob, Cal, my schwanz has been in your face for 20 minutes. If it's not bothering you, we got a bigger problem.
Jacob, you're sitting there with a Supercuts haircut. You're getting drunk on watered down vodka cranberries like a 14-year-old girl, and you're wearing a 44 when you should be wearing a 42 regular. Honestly, I don't know if I should help you or if I should euthanize you.
Cal, I'm so mad at you. I'm really mad at you for what you did. But I'm mad at myself too, because I should not have jumped out of that car. I should have fought for you, because you fight for your soulmates. At least that's what my 13-year-old son tells me.
This one's a funny line from Jessica. I don't want your slutty money. Makes me laugh.
Jacob, the skin under your eyes is starting to look like Hugh Hefner's ballsack.
Oh man, I could keep running these off.
I got 2 more yet.
Let's hear them.
Cal, I was supposed to say that you are the perfect combination of sexy and cute, which is actually something that I used to say to my wife, but now it's become corrupted, and I have 18 layers of clothes on. I'm wearing a shirt and a tie and a sweater and a suede jacket that just seals in all the heat. It just seals all the juices in. It's all sweat under here. This is just sweat from here down. I'm this sweater. This is called slim cut, but it feels like a scuba suit, and I'm looking at your breasts. What's that about?
This is Jacob and Hannah's first interaction. Hannah, can I buy you a drink? No. You say no a lot, don't you? No.
And my last one is David Lindhagen. I'm this accountant who's waking up every morning and excited to go to work, and that just does not happen for accountants, ever. I checked with other accountants. I did that one just for you, Dad. And he's not even here. Oh, okay. All right.
We could rattle off a lot more. It's a very quotable movie.
Yeah, it very much is, and there are certain movies like that, and I find that to be the case with a lot of comedies, especially if they're even like somewhat well written, because a lot of the dialogue can be used in that fashion. I think for the most part, I know that the number one most quotes we've ever had for a movie is comedy. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to remember if it's still Dodgeball or not. I think there was another one that, oh God, I probably could quote the entire script from Dodgeball.
Yeah.
Oh. So,
as an aside, as a kid, I always loved the TV show Barney Miller and Abe Vigoda's character Fish, who spent the entire show going from his desk to the bathroom, making one-liners, until I got to be about the same age. I'm not finding it funny anymore.
But let's start to wrap this up. Let's go to the Stanley Rubric. Legacy is up first. This is a measure of the legacy of the film approximately 5 years after it came out. So roughly 2016 to today, over the last 10 years, what is the legacy of the film as shared between two equal yet separate groups, the industry and the audience? 5 and 5 points apiece for a total of 10. Dad, would you like to go first or second here?
I'll go second.
This is a hard one to quantify, particularly because, and we always have this problem, even though we've discussed some more modern movies, everything that's a little bit closer to the day and age is just so much harder on a legacy front because you don't have that length of time to really analyze and see how a film is developed and appreciated, because so many of them have these kind of roller coaster histories that we've had over time with them. But that being said, for what this movie is, and I think it's unfortunate that it came at the end of the 2010s, or excuse me, not the 2010s, but like at the end of the 2000s decade roughly, as opposed to the beginning, because it could have had so much better of a life on cable that it just never got the opportunity because linear TV is just not what it was in the 2010s as it was even in the 2000s when I was in high school and such. So with that being said, there's a couple of key industry things that I don't know are immediately apparent right away, but are, I think, somewhat significant. So we've mentioned over and over Dan Fogelman and his career path and the rest of this. I think that the opportunity to make and then have a successful and, I guess, profitable film, more or less, it had to give him the opportunity to eventually develop something like a This Is Us, where he's on that show, or that show is on for 6 years, and it's a huge network TV show. So that's one factor I'll put to it. Another factor is that nobody in this movie is necessarily at the beginning of their career, although you could make the case that Ryan Gosling is not Ryan Gosling yet. This is kind of his Drive early on era where he's still trying to navigate the waters of what he's eventually going to become as we know him today. But he's still very much thought of in his Notebook era because it's only like a 5-year separation. So you could say that he kind of matures at least, or figures out a different avenue for himself about this time, but it may not be solely because of this movie. I think he got nominated for Best Actor for Drive. I'm pretty sure he did. And I think that movie kind of changed the perception of him as far as casting.
Sure.
Emma Stone, by that extension, This is the third movie that I can really recall her being a part of that's kind of in the same vein. Superbad was in there, Easy A, and now this. It feels like she's on a particular trajectory that she eventually breaks, but only after she gets the success of La La Land, which then I'll bring that point together. This is the first pairing between the two of them, which obviously gives the chemistry. If this movie doesn't happen, they're not paired together in La La Land. I gotta think that Damien Chazelle watched these two together and said, they have such amazing chemistry, they would be great in my film.
Yeah, sure.
So all of those different disparate things together, I have to think gives it a little bit more than we might otherwise have gone. And so I'm going to say this is at a 3.5. It's not a huge industry film. Nobody's talking about a sequel. Nobody's career by that is like started or like they launched off from this movie and became a super megastar or anything like that. But I think you start to add up a few of their factors in the vastness of each of their careers. Everybody came out on the other side better off, but how much is the question? As far as an audience perspective, so I have a 3.5 on the industry. We didn't have a chance, or we didn't take the opportunity this last Monday to do our world famous office poll of our staff of 30 some people who are, despite seemingly that we have a large cross section of people, it's not nearly as diverse as you might think. But that being said, they're also not the biggest moviegoers, which is where they actually inform some of our opinion on this particular section of this category.
Right.
Because if they've heard of it, if they are familiar with it, if they know some of the gifts and such, it gives us an informative look at, okay, this is broken through to that other group, the people that don't regularly watch 50 movies a year, let alone, hundreds and hundreds like the cinema nerds that we are.
Right.
So because we don't have that information, I wonder to a degree how many people have actually seen this. I think it is a bit of a cult classic, but it's really hard to zone in on how widespread that this movie is. My lone, other than like some people in my own community suggesting it to me, my lone experience with this is that eventually the Rewatchables did an episode on it a couple of years ago. But outside of that, I've seen it on Netflix occasionally. I think it's on HBO Max right now. It kind of makes the circulation. I don't have anything concrete to say. I'm going to go with a 2, but that's where I'm going to land. So I'm going to have 5.5 total for the category.
Okay. Well, it's for the industry, and I understand your points, Tom. And the problem I'm having with this is that I don't know where to go with it. I looked at the timing of it, and I ended up having to factor this into impact and significance instead because the timeline was too short. And it really isn't something that, like, boom, somebody's career just took off. It was part of a whole process of motion along that way. So I'm going to give it some because I think it helped a lot of the people. Emma Stone, I think it helped Steve Carell. I think it helped, move their careers along, but not significantly. So I came in for the industry at a 3. Now, for the public, from what I can gather, it's one of these films that if you just said the name, they might recognize the name and like they've seen it. Then you get the people who don't remember the name, but when you start describing the film, they have a tendency to remember it. It's a real dichotomy. It's not like they put them real together. So I'm going to give it a slight tick up to come to the same conclusion. I'm going to go 2.5 for the public, and I'm at a 5.5.
What I will say is the title both works for and against it. it's generic enough of a title that you may not remember any of the specifics about the movie, but it's also so generic that it sounds familiar.
Yeah. You've convinced me to move on the industry legacy from a 2 to a 2.5. I was pretty low on that because I do think at this point in time, I don't think there's anyone trying to like redo this movie or reference this movie. I think you all make good points that it took a lot of talented people, many of them kind of early in their launch, and if it didn't launch them further, it certainly didn't hold them back, right? There's no blemishes for being in this movie, and I think the point about like almost certainly this is why Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling were in La La Land, and I think my difference, Thomas, is I don't weight that as this movie's legacy as much as you do, but I do think it's a good argument for giving it that's why I'm bumping into a 2.5. But I just think that there's no trying to mimic it in style or in substance or anything. As you say, there's no sequels. It's kind of a weird relic from the time of 2011, and the industry has moved on to different things, and that's how it is. So I rank it lower than you do there. When it comes to audience, I'll give it a 3, I think. I think it's a little more relevant to audiences at large. Does that put it the same? Is that 5.5? Did we all do 5.5?
That is correct.
I promise that was not intentional. If we
it's
want to make
okay.
it
I like easy math.
I think it's kind of right. I do think it's, if you go to the general public, it's probably not remembered. But I do think that there is a bit. If you go to a Reddit forum and talk about Crazy Stupid Love, there's a lot of love for the film. I do think it has a really passionate audience that does love it, and. I hope that continues to grow. I hope it maintains that status and maybe does bleed into the industry again, because I would like to see more of these kinds of movies. I love a good rom-com, as you all might expect, and also one that does weird things and takes risks. And again, the fact that this is almost a rom-com between Cal and Jacob is an unusual decision that you just don't see very often, but I think it's great. And so I'll give it a 3 for that, with a total of 5.5.
So, as you might have guessed, that's a 5.5 average between the three of us.
Easy math.
Let's move to impact and significance. This is a measure of the impact and significance of the film as shared between the same two groups, the industry and the audience, 5 and 5 points apiece for a total of 10. But we are looking at the initial 5 years after its release, so 2011 to 2016. What is the impact and significance of the film as applied to those two groups? Since I led off the first category, Dad, would you like to go first here? You're still muted.
Yes, I will. For the industry, I looked at the timeline, and this came out, I think, Date Night came out first with Steve Carell, and then this. I think
did it
this.
Really? Oh, that's surprising.
I'm pretty sure it was that way around. Unless if it wasn't, it was just the opposite. But they weren't very far apart. And what I think is happening is that Carell was starting to get more and more movie offers, and I think that was the defining moment of I'm leaving the office.
I'm trying to remember. I think he leaves at the end of season 7, and it goes.
It's the end of 20. It ended in 2011. He went off in the.
So The Office is starting its first season in, I think, spring of 2006. I think the second season finishes in 2007. So then 08, 09.
I looked it up.
Okay, well.
Yeah. So that I gave it a little higher. So within that time frame. And I think it also, again, as I indicated, it was more of a dramatic role. I think it kind of opened people's eyes for him doing more dramatic or seeing more, not the silly comedic role of the 40-year-old virgin necessarily. So I'm going to go with a 3.5. And for the public, a film that makes, I think it was 3 times its budget at that time for romantic comedy. I think
Not quite, but yeah.
I think the public did like it. And so I'm at a 3.5 for that as well. So I'm going to go with a 7.
I have slightly different numbers, but I end up at basically the same score. My support for the impact in the industry is just slightly higher from the standpoint that I'll add in the same factors that I did before. I think This Is Us comes out in 2016, so that's like right on that edge of what we would think of as the 5 years for Dan Fogelman. We had the situation with La La Land being also in 2016. If you want to carry this pairing, this relationship forward, and the chemistry that they eventually had, so there's a couple of different factors as we're considering there. I ultimately kind of went with the 4, but it's not really that different or discernible from you. I just slightly went down to a 3 on the audience because I think, what was it, 58th? And it's hard to think that a movie that makes $145 million as a film, as a comedy, the financials in the industry has changed so much, even since like 2019, which I want to say is like the peak year of cinema going that I remember now in my life. And I think it may come back here as we move into whatever film era is next in the 2030s, based on the theory that I've espoused I don't know how many times, and I won't bore everybody with here today. But ultimately, to watch a movie of that quality still make $145 million but be 58th, I just like a movie makes $145 million this time around, it's like 12th,
especially comedy. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So it's just I want to say there's a little bit of a unusual quality to that, and I don't want to be snowed by that in saying that the audience was like there. I think that the way people have watched movies changed so much in such a short period of time that it's hard to put those two things together, where if you say, again, $145 million, it made not quite, but I would say at least 2.5 times its budget, that's not somehow a bigger number than a 3. But ultimately, again, I landed on your same number, so it's a 7 again. So we have 2 7s on the board.
Well, we might have 3. So everything, Thomas, you gave to legacy, the reason for giving the film a big legacy, I'm actually going to give it to impact. Like, I think that's a really good argument for how the film did impact the career of all these people and helped propel them, if not, again, not stratospheric, but helped move them up a notch, and led to La La Land, which was this huge, phenomenon. So I'm going to give it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4 on impact. I think 4.5 is too high. It's not that big for industry, but I think a 4 on impact. And for impact on audiences, I guess I'll give it a 3 because I don't. Maybe I could maybe go 2.5, maybe 3. I don't know. And this is honestly subjective. It clearly did well. I mean, to both your points, it sold well. People clearly went to see it. Granted, a lot of people are going to movies more then, but still, it's always a big deal when a movie makes a big multiplier of its budget back. That's great. But subjectively, I just don't ever recall. I don't recall the season of Crazy Stupid Love. I don't recall people, oh my God, if you see it, you got to see it. If you haven't seen it, are you nuts? What? You got to go see it. I don't remember that ever happening. And in fact, I don't really remember it happening until, 7-8 years later, when people are like, that's a really good movie. Have you? And I don't remember when I saw it, but it was certainly years after release. And so I just think the impact on the audience at the time was successful, but not huge. So I think right in the middle of the 3 is fair.
So that is, again, a
Sevens.
very easy math 7
Yep.
average between the 3 of us. Let's move to novelty. This is a measure of anything original about the movie for 5 points, and execution on everything in the movie in total for an additional 5 points. I'll start us off here and just say, I think that the movie was not trying to be more than degrees different. I think its familiarity is why the movie works and why people went and saw it, ultimately, because it's playing in a lot of the same sandboxes, but it does just enough things here and there by developing the Robbie character and having this odd babysitter situation that's in love with Cal, and that you at least are changing a little bit of the presentation and the framing of the story. The Jacob and Cal relationship being more at the forefront as opposed to some of the other ones being the primary relationship, I think changes it, but not enough that I'm going to give it like high marks. Because when you present it, and I know we try and judge these films individually, but to a degree you do have to give it the backdrop of all these other greatly novel films throughout history. This is still playing in a lot of the same sandboxes. So I'm going to give that a 2, but I do think this is a well-executed film. It's not perfect. Again, I would have some qualms on the editing just a little bit because I think you could probably cut about 10 minutes of fat out of this movie and still make it work a little bit better. There just seem to be some stretches where it goes on a little too long for my taste, and it ends up making the impact of the last 20 minutes a little more muted, because especially after the Nana thing, it kind of ramps down a little bit. Do we need Cal leaving so many messages on Jacob's machine? Can't we just have an allusion to that? Like, some of that could probably have been skipped over or maybe edited just a little bit better. But the acting is outstanding in this, which you would expect from such a stellar cast. I still find that most of the writing, with the exception of some stuff I'll get to in Classicness for obvious reasons, is pretty good. It's not the best rom-com script I've ever seen, but it's pretty decent, all things considered. So I'm going to give that a 4, and I'm going to end up at 6.
Okay. Novelty. There's not a whole lot that's novel about this, except the things you commented on, Tom. So my novelty score was pretty low. Moreover, this is the comedic version of American Beauty. Right down to the relationship or the infatuation. Instead of it being the guy infatuated with the teen girl's infatuated with the guy.
I want to say, though, that movie does have a lot of humor to it. It's very dark and bleak humor, but it has some. Yes.
So, but I found it very similar. I'm going to go up because of the relationship between Carell and Gosling. And so I'm at a 2 for that. And for the execution, I thought it was actually executed fairly well. I'm at a 3.5.
Okay. We have some variance. I thought for sure you were just going to be like, well, I could say a whole bunch different from Tom, but I'm going to end at the 4. Okay. But did you have something to actually add? I'm sorry.
No, I really didn't. I didn't necessarily have a problem with the execution. I mean, I know your points, but I didn't find it that distracting or anything. And I liked the writing. So I think the execution was well, and I thought the timing was done well.
I'm going to be a little bit of a dark horse here. I think actually I'm going to give this way more points for novelty. I give it a 4 for novelty, and that's maybe too generous, or maybe I don't know. I might be.
Keep us honest. Definition of, it's okay.
Well, it depends on your definition of novelty, I suppose. But I think that there's a lot about this film that is so weird. I think it's like sneaky about how novel it is, to the point where you're always saying like it's been done before. It feels like that, and I understand that point of view, but I have a hard time thinking of a movie that does quite what this one does, certainly as well as it does. We'll get to execution in a second, but the structure of the screenplay, just as a writer, it is bonkers weird. The decisions it makes, from the opening scene, and you mentioned that earlier at one point, just like the weird, just you're thrown right into it, and all of a sudden they're divorced, and the pacing is wild. Again, the decision to basically have the second most important couple of the movie not have a interaction or meaningful interaction. Like the fall in love scene is not till the 90-minute mark, 80-minute, whatever it is, and then just do a 10-minute short film with them. I think there's a lot about this film structure that is very unusual, and I do think the story itself, the interweaving love stories that had kind of started. I just actually searched, and like Valentine's Day had already come out, which I haven't seen, but I understand is about kind of intertwining love stories. And Love Actually was maybe the first to push that one out here, and perhaps this took some inspiration from that. But I just feel like there's a sneakiness about this movie's originality that hides under a very digestible execution. And just speaking as a writer and the decisions it makes, it feels wild and big and unusual. And so I give it a pretty high originality score for those reasons. Similarly, I give it a high execution score because, and we've hinted at this a few times, but this film is so damn delightful that I forgive it for some just truly heinous things. like there are elements of this film that are just shocking, and yet I'm so delighted the entire time that I forgive it for those, and so I give it a 4 for execution as well. So I give it an 8 on this because I just think it is so charming, and the actors are so fun, and the chemistry is just electric on so many fronts and so many pairings that I give it a pretty high score for that as well.
So that will be a 6.5 average between the three of us. Let's move to classicness. This is a measure of how well the film has aged or not. I think all of us are going to have a few things to say about this. Some things age much better than others, and some things age like milk. And because we felt that this might be the prototypical film we were thinking about when we moved the baseline or the median score from a 5 to a 6 for this category years ago, thinking, boy, there's a lot of movies that may have been able to get away with some stuff at one time and that certainly can't do that anymore. Blazing Saddles comes to mind. That movie could not be made today. But that being said, we start at that median point of a 6, and this category is filled with nuance. And in some ways, this movie is also filled with a few legal issues that I would like our senior graying nuance correspondent, Dana, to address. So please start us off. You're muted.
Sorry. I've been doing that so that if I cleared my throat or whatever, I'm not annoying anybody, so sorry. But anyway, as a former criminal defense attorney, I will be speaking a little bit about the multiple felonies that were committed in this case, in this film. Okay. I will give it a little bit of kudos for the fact that when both guys are dating, okay, even for 2011, there was some interracial dating going on, which I thought was fairly enlightened. Now, admittedly, there aren't diversity in the cast and such, but it's suburban life, so I don't hold that. So I'm going to give it, because of the more enlightened ideas of the dating, I'm going to give it a half point up. Unfortunately, the minute Dad gets handed the photos, he is in possession of child pornography. Not to mention the fact that then he goes over and assaults Steve Carell, and Steve Carell assaults Kevin Bacon, etc. So
no. Let's just Jacob assaults David Lindhagen.
Yes. All right. So there's misdemeanor batteries all over the place. Okay. There's possession of child pornography. So, but no, we don't go just kind of dealing with that aspect of it. We have to double down at the end of the film and have felony contributing to the delinquency of a minor, because the minute she hands those photos to him, that's what she's guilty of. Not to mention that even though he's 13, he is now in possession of child pornography. Like I said, as a former criminal defense attorney, it is a strange world in which we live, because there have been parents who have taken the old photo of the baby on the bearskin rug, and been charged. So I can't give it any points up, or obviously, and I'm going to have to go 2 full points down for it. So I'm back at a 4.5 for classicness because of that. Because there's just too many crimes for me. I just, yeah.
Okay, I take 2 points off the top just for the babysitter and the Robbie stuff, because it's just it's the one thing that
it's awful.
Yeah, he just like milk.
Well, I don't want to interrupt. I'm sorry.
I think you could get away with it up until the point where she hands the photos at the end to Robbie. That part just is
so bad.
You could write that out, and the rest of it, I think you can probably excuse. But when you get to that point, it doesn't make any sense unless you're a teenage boy.
Let me add the line where she's talking about, I've loved you since you were changing the diapers of my sister. I thought for a moment he was going to say changing my diapers.
My diapers.
I did,
and if
too.
that would have been
I
the
did
case,
too.
that would have been like 4 points down. Because that would be just creepy.
I mean, yes, but also there's just no way that I would find it believable that he could remember back that far. But her catching him in the opening scene, and then him like going, I think about you.
When you're doing it. Just like, yeah, it's awful.
Why did we need to? Like, that is something a 13-year-old boy would most definitely say and have no filter on. But it does not need to be in a major studio movie. Okay, the twist. Both of them are less impactful the more often you watch this movie. And we've said that with I don't know how many different twists. It's still somewhat novel because like you're anticipating the rest of that, and it's still somewhat rewarding compared to some other ones where it's just waiting on the shock appeal, but it just doesn't have quite the same impact the more often that you watch the film, for me at least. So I'm going to give a point off for that, just as continuing to watch. I think in the original time that you watch it, and if you just keep remembering how you felt when you first watched that still works for you. But so I'm 3 points off from the original point of the 6. What I will give this back some, it's not old enough for our timelessness effect, which we usually start at 25 years, but the jokes still work. In a comedy, we've said that over and over and over again, that comedies are probably the thing that age the worst because societal attitudes towards things age really fast compared to anything else. And I am a comedy snob. The fact that I'm still able to laugh 15 years on from this movie when our comedy has just changed even 5 years after this movie came out. Like it feels like we're in a different comedic era from 2016 on. With everything that we've been living with since that point. So I'll give it a point back up. I'm at a 4.
Okay. I admit I haven't thought this through, so I'm kind of winging it. Yeah, I mean, the babysitter, everything about it, I pretty much hate. I hate that she walks in on him at the beginning, and I hate that he says that to her, because I'm not sure a 13-year-old would say that.
This 13-year-old would not have.
I hate that she took the pictures. I hate that she gave. I really hate that she gives them to him at the end. I do think if she didn't give them to at the end, you could maybe excuse it, maybe. But I hate that she took them in the first place. I think you could do that whole thing with a letter. Like you don't need the dad could find a love letter, and she wrote it as if they, that they had done something. Like, you could write it a certain way where it feels like something has happened, but it hasn't. And I hate it. And like, we're talking about how it aged poorly. I really did it age poorly, or was it always awful? Like, surely in 2011, people were like, really? Is this going to be included in this film? I just can't, because I do remember the first time I saw it. I don't remember when that was. but I think it was before 2016, and I think I was like, what the hell is that? Because it is just horrid and so unnecessary on every front. I mean, I'm going to ding it 3 points for that alone. Because it's just, well, I mean, I want to ding it 3 points, but then I love the film so much I'm only going to ding it 2. I feel like I still, like, the charms of the film are so good. Maybe I'll find a way to get those 3 points back. But so I ding it a lot for that storyline. I think it's just horrible. I think that there's, I'm going to give it a lot of points back though, because while Jacob, I talked earlier, like, he does walk this fine line between, let's call it toxic or not toxic, whatever it is, like toxic or confident. There's never any hint, like I said, he's never saying, hey, get these women. I mean, he does buy them a drink, right? That's always his first move. But it's not done with the implication of like, and make sure, get it strong and make her tipsy so she'll make some bad decisions with you, or look for the girl who's getting too drunk at the bar and talk to her, right? Like, there's no, like, and we talked about How I Met Your Mother, where that Barney Stinson very explicitly makes that jokes very many times in the same era that this was written and made. And so there's none of that here. And so I give the film a lot of credit back to that, just being at least aware that that's not how you should approach women or try to enamor yourself to a woman. And I do think that by and large, with a few exceptions, I think Jacob, like when he does do one instance of negging where that girl's talking to him and he's like, I'm bored. That bugs me. I wish that wasn't there. Because if you take that out, if you take out that one instance of negging, he's really just a well-dressed, confident guy, and that's, and he's not trying to take advantage of anyone. And so I think I give the film, I'll give it a point back for its presentation of like a confident guy not trying to be a total sleazeball, and not having all the negatives that Barney Stinson had in that same era, who is a character I do like, but man, is he also. Me and my wife are rewatching that series now, and we love it. And it's her first time to see it. She's never seen it, and we like it. But there's definitely moments where it's aged poorly in that regard. What else? What else could I? The jokes. I like your point about the jokes, Thomas. I think that most of them, they sing. They sing beautifully, and they don't require any of the downfalls there. So I'll give it a point back for that. Where am I at now? I'm at a 5, I think. Minus yes, 3 plus 2. I'm sure I can get it back to a 6 somehow. I think that oh goodness. I think it doesn't here, I'll give it back to a 6. I think while the women are not as developed as the men in this movie, I do think it does not it doesn't, even though Julianne Moore cheated on him, right? It doesn't villainize her for that, or it doesn't. They never, there's never any. I mean, he makes some barbed comments to her, but they're justified. It's not like they really scarlet letter her for her call it an indiscretion. And I think Emma Stone is similarly given some good agency, and I love this fact that in this scene where she says, we're gonna bang, and she said, I know the PG-13 version of this. It's I fall asleep and you kiss me on the forehead, and but no, I'm gonna bang the hot guy at the bar, and then actually he falls asleep and she kisses him on the forehead. Like, I think that's there's just some lovely stuff there. So I'm gonna get it back to a 6 and call it right neutral at the median. I don't know if that was fair or not, but that was where I ended up.
So one thing I did not account for, and that you make at least a fairly good point on, and I'll invite Dad maybe to reconsider as well. The female characters, if this movie is written just slightly different, where it focuses so much on the men to the detriment of the women characters that it feels like they're either afterthoughts or basically props, I don't feel like this movie is very much that at all. I don't think that even though they don't have as much time to work, Emma Stone's in 4 major scenes, and then she's like a side piece in a couple of others, and Julianne Moore has a few more scenes, but it does feel like they're fully fleshed characters, even though they don't get a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
So at least it doesn't give them second banana status. I would be willing to increase to a half a point to go to the 4.5 on that.
Nice. I'll take it. But that babysitter, man. Bad.
I will go to 5 for the jokes. I did not take that into account. It does. The jokes do age fairly well. Yeah. Especially the jokes about the middle-aged guy.
So that's a 5.17 average between the three of us. Finally, let's move to rewatchability. Insert your own subjective test here. This is just simply 1 through 10. And the one thing that I would invite, I guess, both of you to consider here is not who we could introduce to this film, but once they have seen it for the first time, how many people likely are going to come back to this type of movie. So we usually start with our guests who have probably an even further passion because they picked usually the movie that we're discussing for it. And so we'll start with you, Reed.
Yeah, for me, I mean, it depends on the time frame. I think I could rewatch this movie probably once every few years and be happy about it. And it is to the point, just to bring up the jokes again, right? Every time I watch it, I remember the plot twist coming, and that's obviously the main sell. But there's always lines that I've forgotten about that make me laugh, and moments that make me chuckle. You know, like, oh, I'd forgotten he said that, or I forgot he did that, and it always makes me laugh again. And so I give it a subjectively pretty high rewatchability. When it comes to trying to be objective, I'd say it's a 6. I think it's slightly more than average, likely to be rewatched by a casual viewer. If 5 is like average, I think it's slightly higher than that.
I would mostly agree. I'm going to go with a 7, trying to be a little bit more removed and objective. I think the fact that you have a lot of big-named actors who are all really good in the film would add to people's willingness to rewatch it. And it's comedic, which, at least for people like my dad and I, is a good selling point because Dad has said multiple times over that he just has a difficulty with watching anything that's really not comedy just due to the direness of his own professional life and frankly just the stress that you have. He needed something that's a little bit lighter, and I know that I have friends who relax with horror films, which is like beyond my comprehension.
Yeah, right. Wild.
But you know, this for me is much more comfort food level type of thing, and I like the romantic angle because I like to be reminded sometimes of ideals that it's easy to forget in the everyday doldrums of adult life. So from that standpoint, I think that the sell for people once they've watched it the first time, you're not going to have the same repeatability of the twists of it. But I think because the jokes still work, people will be much more willing to give it back on. I would say also, I like your interval, 1 to 2 years and then revisit kind of thing. But this is not an every other week kind of thing for people. It's a once in a while. And to me, that's about where a 7 sits.
Nice.
Well, interestingly, I'm going to be the high water mark. I'm at a 7.5. This is the kind of film to me that, you know, I used to do it more than I've been doing it because I'm trying to actually get out of my office at a decent hour now. But towards the end of the day, I always put on Frasier or MASH or Hogan's Heroes or something that I was familiar with for background noise and for if I turned away for a minute from what I was working on and watched TV for 5 minutes, I can pick it up and I know where it is. This film is like that. I can see myself putting together a string of these films and just in a rotation and just throwing it on and watching a half an hour, until each day until the film's done. So if it's going to be on that list, it's a 7.5.
Nice.
All right. So that brings us to audience score. For the IMDb users, we have a 7.4, and for the Rotten Tomato users, we have a 78%, giving us a 7.6. So to repeat the categories, we had a 5.5 for legacy, a 7 for impact and significance, a 6.5 for novelty, a 5.17 for classicness, a 6.83 for rewatchability, and a 7.6 for audience score, giving us a final total of 38.6, and currently placing it on our list between The Waterboy and Raging Bull for 254.
Fascinating. I got to see this list.
It is available at all times on the website right at the top. I make sure to keep that up there, but just for context's sake, just around this. So we'll start at 250. Stalag 17, Elmer Gantry, The Diary of Anne Frank, The Waterboy, Now Crazy Stupid Love, Raging Bull, Sunrise, A Song of Two Humans, The Terminator, Bad Day at Black Rock, Rounders, and now Idiocracy will round out that rough stretch in the list.
Interesting.
The list giveth and the list taketh away.
Taketh away.
But how else do you compare? Like there's so many disparate genres between those 11 films. There's no great way to compare
Raging
them.
Bull. I know. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But as always, you can find our socials at Gmote Podcast. You can email us at greatestaltimemoviepodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on RonnieDuncanStudios.com/Gmote Podcast. If you have any commentary or would like to rake us over the coals or anything else, you can find us available there. We do take your hate mail. I may delete it right away, but we still do take it. Moving on to some remaining questions for the film. Why does Jessica give Robbie those photos at graduation?
I don't know. It's so
I can think of two reasons. One, deep down, she is flattered. Okay?
Yeah, I can see it.
And two, she's so conceited that she really doesn't want to destroy them.
Man, I mean, I know that I've seen some TikTok people describe, what's the equivalent of men giving flowers to women? It's sending nudes. But I just...
Oh, wow.
That's funny.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That seems like a way... That balance is not balanced at all.
I never thought about sending roses and a dick pic being equivalent.
Yeah, that seems
well,
way
again,
too...
it's the difference in
Wow.
how the genders perceive things. Like, I don't know, but I it's such an odd area that
I'm gonna put it on.
I don't have a good way
it's
of
on
addressing
parity
it.
with jewelry, like giving nice jewelry and giving. I feel like that should be the equivalency. Not anyway. It's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why she did. I mean, someone pointed out. I can't remember which one of you it was. Talked about like, it only makes sense if you're a 13-year-old boy, and my thought is just like either Dan Fogelman like has a little bit of 13-year-old boy in him, I guess, or just like wanted to indulge a 13-year-old boy's fantasy. I don't know, but it's just dreadful.
Let's move on. There's no good way of talking about it.
There's no redemption on that one.
Do Cal and Emily get back together? We kind of said that we all thought that they did, but I think the movie leaves it just open-ended enough for you to interpret what you want.
Oh man, I say hard yes. And if you want to interpret another way, the movie did not work for you then.
I always think they're going to have a good relationship. Clearly, they don't have the level of anger and vitriol that other divorcing couples seem to have, where it just, the disentanglement feels so severe that like they cannot be in the same room together kind of thing. That's not the case here in any stretch of the imagination. So I think they will have a good relationship. Whether they reconcile to the point of having a romantic involvement, I'd like to think so. Like, I'm hoping for that, but I also think that the evidence is there where it may not work out. I think to a degree Cal is willing to try, but it's also, again, how much she wants to be a part of that, and we don't see the true evidence that she's wanting that yet. And that's the only thing holding me back.
I disagree on that. She does want it back. The fact that she calls him about the water heater leads me to believe that she wants to reclaim her old life. The question is going to be, can she get her old life back? I mean, this is something that they're not going to be together for a year, maybe even 2. They're going to have to rebuild. There's going to be not just counseling, therapy, where they are having to deal with a lot of the pain and trauma that they had go on in their lives. And then maybe they would be back together. But yeah.
Is Cal or Jacob ever given a restraining order?
If ever there was a cause for restraining order, him raking the yard in the middle of the night, that's it.
Yeah, again, one of those things that walks that fine line. Yeah.
I'm a little surprised he was going to be eligible to show up for graduation given the situation with the teacher. And everybody was like a public witness at parent-teacher to this whole thing.
Blow up, yeah, right. That's funny.
And would you ever be wooed by Jacob Palmer? I guarantee you I would.
Oh, yeah. I was. I watched the movie. I love him.
Cal was.
Yeah.
Like, that's the part that, yeah, he Mr. Miyagi. No, he also wooed you like he did every other woman in the movie.
Right.
Did his my thought is does Cal's self-confidence come from his own personality or the fact that he really did not have to worry about money?
You mean Jacob or
Jacobs?
Jacob, excuse me.
Jacobs?
Yep.
Yeah. That's definitely a huge boon in his favor. But he also says at one point, what is it? He says, I'm trying to buy happiness and it's not working or something like that. He does indicate that he's a little broken.
I think it's interesting, and we kind of have talked it back and forth of the similarities between a Jacob Palmer kind of character and a Barney Stinson. I'm seeing that a lot of these characters that are like these modern wolves that wear suits and whatever else always have to have a lot of money, because you have to take that piece out of the equation, that they have a certain level of confidence and are able to do that, but they're still broken because even though they seemingly have everything, it's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that somehow, by giving them all the money, you're taking that out of the equation of being something that's wrong with them or that couldn't be solved.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a firm believer that money can buy happiness. It can't buy contentment. I mean, you can't tell me driving a Ferrari is not going to be happiness. Now, are you going to feel satisfied with your life if you are?
It depends on what you define as happiness. I mean, I've maintained for a while that the most detrimental phrase in American history is the pursuit of happiness, because I don't think you can actually attain it.
That's the pursuit, not the holding of happiness.
Yeah, but I think everybody assumes that once you get to the pursuit, the end goal, if you can't ever obtain it, then what's the point in the pursuit?
It's taken from John Locke, which was the pursuit of property, and they changed it because that just sounded not pleasant.
But regardless, any other additional remaining questions?
No.
Hearing none, I will thank our guest for being on with us for such an extended amount of time. I hope we haven't taken you away from too many other promotional or family obligations, given you have small children. But just again, remind everybody what you're working on and where they can find you.
I'm working on releasing Do Us Part, and you can find me on Instagram at line_read_line and Do Us Part the movie.
Sounds good. And again, for everybody, that movie will be coming out for most of our audience on streaming on August 14th. So check that out there. no need for remaining thoughts for the week since we have both of our other episodes coming out, Dad. So I will just say this is a good spot to end for the evening. Thank you all for being here so much. We appreciated having the opportunity to do this, and certainly, Reed, if you do ever have anything to promote, you are welcome back anytime. We'd love having you. But
thank you.
Take care, everybody, and we'll see you soon.